All right. My software says I'm live. Let's see if Facebook thinks I'm live. And then we'll kick this thing off into high gear.
Well, my phone just made a message.
Did your phone just make a message?
Live.
I just went live. Okay, I need to see it.
You should be so proud.
His phone made a message.
David should be so proud.
Okay, yeah, it looks like it. There it is. Let me click on it. I just went. All right, so here we go. All right, guys. So you're not going to hear the intro music, but we're gonna go live. So hold on. CoCoTALK After Dark intro in 3, 2, 1, and we're going. Let's try to take 2 on this one. All right, we're gonna do it live. Here we go. CoCoTALK After Dark intro in 3, 2, 1. Live from Facebook, it's CoCoTALK After Dark. Lock up the pets and hide the women. These guys are ready to party. All right, and here we go. Take it away, CoCoTALK After Dark. And look at this. Now, everything just broke on me on my live stream. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to CoCoTALK After Dark. I believe this is experiment number 7. If I'm not mistaken, 8. Actually, this would be CoCoTALK After Dark number 8, technically. So we're here. Welcome. We got, hey, John Strong just joined us. We got a lot of really not important things to talk about today, which is a typical episode of CoCoTALK. But once you guys talk amongst yourselves for just a second, let me do a quick introduction. I'll say who's here, and then I got to fix a few things in the live feed. So we have Grant Leedy, Richard Lorbieski, Qui-Gon Jinn is here, Ron Delvaux, Coco Man, cool. John Strong, Jim Brain, Steve Bjork, Tim Lindner, and David Ladd. Welcome to the program, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hey.
Hey, how's it going, Steve?
Hey. All right, so I'm hearing a little bit of echo now, too. I'm not sure what just introduced that. We'll get it figured out as we do this live. And so let me just get the live chat going here. Let's get the emojis going here, and I think we'll be good. All right.
What's the ballpark we're keeping this at? 30 minutes tonight?
No, I was going to go for about 15 seconds, if at all possible, yeah. So,
or your pizza's free.
Yes. Okay, connecting to Facebook Live posts. I had this problem earlier, too. I think we're going to say screw the text chat, because I had this problem last time, too, trying to get the text chat to come through. It's not coming through, but what I will do is I am going to play the cheesy lounge music. So there we go. You guys can't hear it, but I can hear it. All right, so here we go. I got a topic for you. So today, when we did CoCoTALK live, I had this crazy idea of, hey, let's not do a 4-hour show. And part of the reason is that, you know what, hey, I'm just a little tired, so let's try to keep it within a reasonable time frame. And I think we did a pretty good job of doing that, hour and a half-ish. And, and then the comments started rolling in internally of, well, it felt like it was rust, and we should have done this, and the show should be this long and that long. So, there's your topic. How long should an official CoCoTALK show go for, and if there is such a thing as a normal show?
Whatever.
I would say 2 hours.
2 hours.
You split the difference somewhere between an hour and 2.
How about till everyone is ready to go?
Then that would be 24/7.
When you start playing the crickets.
Okay, so who do we have in the live chat right now? We have got Ken is here, Richard is here, and John W. Linville is here, and Jason is here, and Jim Brain is here, Bill Noble is here, Grant Leedy is here, Michael Newman is here. Yeah. So part of it is this, it's like we have this show. This show has been a tradition. We're doing it every week. And honestly, there are some days I kind of just don't have it in me to do it for whatever reason. Physically, mentally, spiritually. You know, there's some days I just don't want to do a show.
Stevie's doing brownout. We're browning them out.
What happened? Is my audio breaking up?
No. This is the thing I've worried about with you. Doing a weekly show, 4 hours long each week. You're browning out. You're burning out.
Well, I mean, I've had this feeling back and forth. So we've been doing this show for a year. I mean, there are just some days it's like, hey, it's a Saturday. Maybe I'd like to do something else, you know? And so there are days I'm not in the mood. But I'll give you a perfect example. One of the days that I didn't want to do the show was the first time you joined us, Steve Bjork. And you came on, and you were on for like 3 hours. Because you literally was the first time. And we heard so many stories, you know what I mean? And it was so good.
And what did I keep saying to you? Don't let me take over the show.
No. This was the first time you joined us before you became like a regular. The first time you joined, this was like way back when. You kind of came in as a special guest. Am I breaking up now?
Yeah, you are breaking up.
Yeah, you are.
Am I breaking up? So damn it, I can't play the music, which really sucks. But yeah, so I'll just give you a perfect example. The one day that I was like, you know what, I just don't want to do it today. I want to phone it in. I don't want to do the show. I'm just not feeling it. But that was the time, Steve Bjork, where you joined us for the very first time as like a special guest. It was very random and spontaneous, and you joined us. And you talked for, gosh, a couple of hours. And every minute, you know, it was just like sitting here listening to gold fall out of the sky. The stories, the information. It was just like the perfect storm of the perfect show that we didn't plan. So there are days where I'm thinking, I don't want to do the show today. And one of those days was the day you came on. So on the one hand, I'm like, well, you never know. We might have a good show, so we can't not have a show. And then on the other hand, I'm like, you know, there are people who actually want to watch it. There are people who want to be on it. So it's not always about me, but you know, today was a day where I told you guys earlier when we were in our pre-call, I'm like, man, I'm just exhausted. I've had a crazy week, so I don't want to do a long show today. And, you know, the old showbiz saying, you know, show must go on.
Remember when you had Grant host or start it? Couldn't we just, you know, shovel it off to someone else for a while?
We do. We need a couple of backups. Because Grant was under the weather today too, right? So we do need a couple of backups. But yeah, so today was just that day where earlier today I was just like, man, I don't have it in me to do a long show, so I wanted to try to plan on it being short. And I don't think, other than you guys mentioned the show felt a little rushed, I don't think it was a bad show. And I think sometimes it's good to be short and sweet, you know. And I think we were just about there. So I think 2 hours is probably the sweet spot. So if we always plan for an hour, like we did today, and we get in around 2, that's probably a good show. Unless, like last week, we had the Brazilian stuff, and it went long, but nobody was tired of being there. You know, you can't plan for that either. So
have we ever thought about maybe having it CoCoTALK at this time of the night on Saturday? Seems like we have a bigger crowd and more activity on the evenings than we do in the afternoons.
How does that go for the Australian guys?
Yeah, that's the problem. Our international friends. Australia is better, right? Because it's later in the day. Nick Morentis is worse for Europe, but good for Australia. So yeah, there is no perfect time, I don't think. What are you eating there, John Strong? Looks like you got bird seed or something. What's going on there, dude?
I've got some popcorn.
Okay.
Yeah. So do I.
You look like you should be in a park feeding pigeons right now, whatever that is.
Hey, did you bring enough for everybody?
Yes. Here.
Oh, it's a whole bag. So, what else? So I think having the one topic today of Temple of ROM, I think that went pretty well. We stayed on target. We talked about it. It was nice having Rick join us in the end there to kind of bring the whole thing full circle. Maybe tonight we'll get into that, a little Temple. I don't know if we're going to do the full 4-hour marathon, but Jason, you want to screen share and show off the RGB patch that you threw together and put out there today?
Well, actually, right now I'm running on a Coco 2.
Okay, so this is composite.
Yeah, this is composite. This is off a composite modded Coco 2.
Okay, I'll show it off real quick on mine, but then we can do that. So,
I capture via composite, so it wouldn't look right anyway.
Okay, so what you guys are seeing right now, full screen on mine, is the diskette version. I can't screen share. You'd have to bring up the Facebook live stream and make sure you mute the sound on it. So there's too much bandwidth stuff going on here. I can't screen share. So what I'm showing right now is Temple of ROM, and Temple of ROM was written in an artifact mode, which means artifact looks good on a television, but doesn't come through on RGB. It looks like black and white stripes. So what Jason discovered today is if you press certain keys on the keyboard, the clear key being one of them, right?
Right.
So the clear key would switch it to, matter of fact, let me just try it right now on my Coco. If I hit clear again, what are the different keys? Clear is one of them. What shift is the other?
Clear, shift, and enter.
Clear, shift, and enter. Okay, so here it is. I'm on enter. So this is what the artifact mode actually looks like. And because I'm doing this through RGB, you just see the black and white stripes. If I hit shift, it's now gone to this green background, this P mode background, which looks horrific with the colors of choice. And then when you hit clear, this was actually the mode that had the white background and had like the orange and teal and purple, what I like to call the nuclear vomit palette. This the colors that weren't designed to be seen together. And so you came up with a little basic program that shifted palettes and made those colors look like the artifact colors. And this looks pretty good. So this lets us play it on a Coco 3 via RGB. And it's a great little hack. And a lot of Coco 3 games were kind of modified to do that, right? So looks good. And we have been talking about doing a Temple of ROM marathon, kind of like what we did with our Forest of Doom marathon. I don't know if we're going to do that full marathon tonight, but we should probably do one in the near future. And just have an all-out brawl. Who can get the furthest, who can get the most points, who can last the longest, all that kind of stuff, just for bragging rights.
Coco Man is disqualified, too.
There's no mug involved.
Jason
bragging rights.
Only plays for high stakes, right?
Right.
So we got a handful of people out here watching us in the live chat. Hello to everybody. Feel free to chime in and say hi. And if there's anything you want to talk about, throw it out there because we don't have a lot to talk about right now. Somebody mentioned today they saw Black Panther. That was Jim Brain, right?
It was.
Without any spoilers, would you give it 2 thumbs up?
I will give it 2 thumbs up.
Okay. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Black Panther. This is 2018 is going to be the year of great movies, I think. A lot of good stuff coming out.
One thing about Black Panther, see it in a large screen. Don't go to one of those little itty-bitty guys. See it on a large screen. It's epic.
IMAX theater.
Doesn't necessarily be IMAX, so that helps, but just make sure that you go to a theater that holds at least 300 people, not one of these 100 or less seating ones.
Right.
And also go to one that's busy. You're going to find that the crowd's going to get into the movie, too.
Yeah. I'll give you a perfect example of a great crowd movie to see was I saw Howard Stern's Private Parts when that first came out in a theater full of 20-somethings, and that atmosphere was literally like being at a rock concert. Everybody there was a Stern fan. It was a great movie, and there is something collective about that shared experience sometimes. You find at a comedy you might laugh a little harder, things like that. So, yeah, I could see that. I could see that you have that kind of group energy going on with that movie.
Yeah, back in the days when I used to run publications, we'd have to go see screenings, and you could always tell what demographic the audience was, the movie was shooting for, because in addition to the reviewers, which were usually these older people, they would bring in, like if it's a college comedy film or something, they'd bring in a bunch of college kids or whatever, and they used to call that papering the audience. So you had people in there that would be really rooting up the film, so you would write a positive review.
Gotcha.
What is the release date for Ready Player One?
Is that in March or April?
I think it's coming in March, I thought.
I'm gonna Google that right now. That's a great question. Let's see. Well, the first thing that comes up is IMDb, and it's hard to say when it's coming out. Updated September 2016. What the hell? What's the website for Ready Player One? Wikipedia. Official trailer. Twitter ought to tell us, huh? Ready Player One in theaters March 29th, 2018. There you go. So, yeah.
Yeah, they don't want to.
Interesting.
They do not want to compete with Wrinkle in Time.
That's the new Disney one, right?
Yep. Well, it's got Oprah Winfrey in it.
Hey, Paul has rejoined us. Welcome back, Paul. How are you?
Hey, pretty good.
Thanks for being here again. Today you joined us on CoCoTALK for the first time, and CoCoTALK After Dark has always been a lot less structured.
That's okay.
Yeah, it's the extremely loose version of the show. But yeah, glad to have you back. Tim, twice in one day too. Tim Lindner, this is quite a treat. And
I'm doing what I can.
Yeah, we need to get William Astle on here one time. That'll be good. So you go ahead.
You can poke him on Discord.
Yeah. Grant, you had mentioned earlier that maybe we needed to talk more about CoCoFest today. Is there anything in particular you think needs more pontification on?
No. I'm just thinking that with everything coming up, the shows will probably get a little bit longer with CoCoFest coming up.
Yeah, especially getting into like in April for sure. Last couple shows in April leading up to CoCoFest.
And by the way, I was going to ask you, do we pay the $20 on PayPal for the food on Saturday night?
You can. Did you reserve a table?
Yeah, I got the ease of use project table.
Yeah, right. So when I reserved the table, Tony Pedraza had emailed me back with a receipt, and then he mentioned, if you would like to pay for the dinner, it's the same price and same PayPal address. So if you still have that, I think it's Brian Goers. Whoever you PayPal'd for your admission or exhibitor table, same address, send $20 to for the dinner.
And is it worth $20? Like, I didn't do it last year, so.
Yeah. Those of you who've had the barbecue, would you agree?
Crickets?
Yeah, it's a buffet. It's a barbecue buffet, right? So it is. There's ribs, there's chicken, there's pulled pork, there's macaroni, potato salad, lettuce and tomato salad, bread, drinks. And I think they even have a gluten-free vegan dish for a few people who might have some dietary or, other food considerations. So they had done something like that too. So, I think the quality of the food is worth it, but it's also the benefit where we don't have to leave. So it is like a big family supper. Everybody's together in that big cafeteria right outside of the areas, and we just all stay together and break bread. So I think the value is a combination of the food and the camaraderie and the gathering of it,
Okay, so they bring it right there to the Heron.
Yes, it's there. So, the whole event of CoCoFest is basically in the basement of the convention center. And so the exhibitor area is against one wall and the speaking area is against another wall. And so, but in the center of the room is like this kitchen area, kind of a kitchen break room, like a cafeteria, I guess you can call it, like a central cafeteria in the middle of that basement area. And that's where the food is. And so you just walk through the food line that's set up like a buffet. You grab your grub and you sit down and you eat. And there's usually enough to go back for seconds too for those who need to do that. But I enjoyed the food and I enjoyed the kind of communal experience of it.
I wonder if they're going to have security.
We'll just dress up there or something.
Yeah. There actually is a guy. There's a guy, right? Because there is a security type guy. I don't think he's armed or anything. I don't even think he wears a badge, but he works for the management of the building because he has to lock it up for us at night and stuff. So, the building gets locked at night. So for, when you have your tables set up with all your stuff, you don't have to worry about that because everything gets locked up. It's not, people aren't going to wander in there after hours or anything like that. So. And Alan Huffman is with us, who was not able to make it today. How was your off-Broadway adventure today, Alan?
A lot
shorter than CoCoTALK usually is.
So it wasn't quite 4 hours, huh?
No, in fact, I expected I would be able to get home and still join into the last half of CoCoTALK.
And we were glad to let you down.
Rick Adams barely made it.
Yeah. Okay, so David Ladd is showing off Temple of ROM. How about we just do this? How about we show off dueling Temple of ROM screens here right now? So we've got David Ladd on the left and Jason on the right. So this is the Temple of ROM. Matter of fact, if you guys wanted to start a playoff right now, you guys probably could. A little Temple of ROM playoff for high score and glory.
You sure about that?
Nah, I think so. So what are you doing on yours, David? Is yours the RGB patch through Coco 3?
Yeah, it's running on MAME at the moment.
Oh, you're running on MAME. Okay.
Yeah, it's as I was doing some testing earlier, and when this mode, which is black and white, actually wasn't working earlier today.
Ah.
Yeah, MAME had a bug, which of course William Astle actually found how to fix it.
Okay. Okay, so I'm not sure who that was that chimed in as CoCoTALK, so I don't know if that is Grant or Mark Overholzer, but somebody says that the guy, maybe it's Curtis, he says the guy who I mentioned was a security guy, said he's more of a maintenance guy at Heron Point, for what it's worth. That might even be John Linville, who knows, because John has admin rights too. Okay, so yeah, that guy is... But yeah, he's been there for a couple of years. Yeah, so what did you guys think of that video the guy posted with the 3D rendering of Temple of ROM? I thought it was quite impressive.
Yeah, I think it was awesome.
I think what he's done with it looks good. I think the presentation where he had the music to go along with it and the sound effects and kind of some of the environmental effects. This little narrow hallway that Jason's crawling across right now, this is one of the ones I think Rick was saying earlier today that he was thinking if you touched the wall, you would die. But look how skinny that wall is. How could you not touch that wall, you know?
I wonder if that was when he was just going to have the character walking around like it was just a dot instead of a person.
Okay, that's possible. Yeah, like Adventure, he's saying originally he had done it as a dot, and Tandy says, no, it's got to be a person. Now, the thing that I can't remember his real name, Share Squid, but he was calling it something like the risk and rewards, because he has a second video where he did a playthrough similar to this, and he was kind of like just commentating some stuff, and he's like the areas like this where you're in a narrow hallway, it makes it more difficult for you to deal with a bat. So there's a risk associated with that, but usually on the other side of the hallway is a decent prize, so then there's the reward, you know. And so that's what he was referring to as, and then you can see your bats there again. Rick had mentioned too, there's a hack to make the bat not come out, because the bat works off of an idle timer, and if you were just to walk into a room and walk right back out, you've reset that timer. So there's also a way to do that. There's another hack where if you hold down the fire button, you can literally walk through walls. Has anybody tried that? I've heard it. I've never tried it.
I've never seen it happen. Is it just
hold down the button? Yeah, no, it's an undocumented feature. Is it working?
No.
It's not working. Well, that's supposedly what I think even Rick had mentioned, that you could do it, but it doesn't. Okay, John Day is the guy's name. Okay, the Share Squid guy, John Day. So that's what he called the jump scare, where when you start to go up and it's scrolling, you don't see the bad guy until you get there. So yeah, there are definitely some cool aspects to the game. I know you've got a tremendous head start on David Ladd, but now David's playing too. Matter of fact, the Temple of ROM guy from this distance here looks a little bit like the Farfall guy. Wonder if Rick now owes John Linville royalties.
Of course, one thing I would have done on this game is given an option where if you had two joysticks, one would control your direction of fire, the other one would control your direction of movement.
Oh, like a Robotron. Yeah.
That's exactly what I would have done in this game.
Yeah.
That way Tandy would sell twice as many joysticks.
Well, the original Black Beauties, I think they were sold in pairs. right? But the deluxe, yeah, you could sell more deluxe.
Well, see, the deluxe, you'd want the fire one with the springs turned off, and the motion one, you would want the springs on.
Right. Spider. Yeah, it's a neat game. So it would be interesting to see, because I think Rick was saying like this would take 4 hours to complete if you didn't die to just to explore everything in it. Yeah, pretty large. I'm gonna pull up on Curtis's site the map for this real quick. Anybody not familiar with Curtis Boyle's games list website, he has got, where is it? 3 in a row, TTT, Temple of ROM. Okay. So, yeah, Curtis Boyle's website has been around forever, and he's been reviewing games and stuff. This was the first map. I forgot to, okay, who did this? Mark DuPont was the person who disassembled this, and I think Mark was with us on the live interview when we interviewed Rick Adams for the first time. So Mark DuPont had disassembled the game and was able to pull out the map data. Now, based on that, Rick Adams actually kind of gave the feedback on where things were going to go. So he called these areas here guard rooms. This was the chapel. This is the granary storage, inspired by the shape of a voltage regulator. This area here, he says. This big room here, he said, was going to be a game of Space Invaders going in here. Down here in the bottom right-hand corner, the catacombs, and the top left, King and Queen's bedroom. So this was the first map that was kind of part of the community-driven project on this from about a year and a half ago. Not much long after that, then the same person who disassembled it, Mark DuPont, he went back and was able to extract all the item data. So he created a second map that basically shows all the locations of Temple of ROM, as well as where all the objects are. So really, you know, if you're running this on an emulator or a PC and you got 2 screens, it'd be kind of cool to have this map up on one screen while you're playing the game, just as kind of a visual checklist. Where have I been? What have I got? What am I missing? But it is pretty cool. You can kind of see here the scope and the scale of this game. And this had to fit on a 4K ROM cartridge, so it's pretty impressive that you got something of this scale in there. And all kinds of goodies there. So that is pretty cool to see there.
One of the tricks I used on a lot of my games where we had limits on the ROM size like that is if we had more than 16K, we could do things like expand compressed data into the RAM and have it for high-speed access. But still,
okay.
just the way the data is probably configured, I'm assuming that Rick went through and put some sort of compression in so he didn't have to expand everything out all the time.
Okay. And William just corrected me. He says actually it was an 8K ROM cartridge. Okay.
Okay, and then he didn't really compress it that much.
Yeah. But yeah, it's a neat game. And it's neat that it's kind of getting this revival, you know, kind of this resurgence in it. And so, and William, who just chimed in there on the Facebook live chat, William is the one who disassembled this for Rick recently. And William is also the one who disassembled Dungeons of Daggereth. And we were talking about that recently. And I really enjoyed listening to that commentary where he talked about the project of disassembling Daggereth and all the layers he had to go through before he could fully understand all the complexities of the code and the data and the compression and all kinds of stuff. It just seems like it was such a multifaceted puzzle that had to be kind of unraveled. It was kind of cool that he did it and kind of sharing that stuff with the process of that. But yeah, cool game. So what else did we not talk about today on the main program that we should talk about now, or just in general? What else is worth talking about?
I had a question for Steve. I just was wondering if he had any plans on redoing any of his games.
Well, we might see something. But right now I'm just looking at one possibility is to make a Coco 3 version of Polaris. Call it Polaris 3.
That would be cool. More colors.
And more sounds.
Mm-hmm.
My Temple of ROM is broken.
What do you got, Ron? You got the cartridge, or you're doing a disc image?
That's
I'm
MAME
running it
he's
on
using.
MAME.
Oh, you're running it on MAME.
Yeah.
That's,
on
yeah.
Coco High.
Ah. I have had problems emulating Temple of ROM for some reason.
Well,
Yeah.
after Williams' fix, I'm not having any problems.
Yeah.
See, right now, he just died. But if you could have two joysticks, one for fire, one for motion, it would have been a lot easier.
Yeah.
Because when you get that bat chasing you, you can't.
Yeah.
You got to turn to hit him.
Yeah, well, maybe Rick can consider putting that in as an option.
And the other thing, too, is the way I did a lot of my games, just as an observation, if you are moving in a particular direction, I always try to make it that you had more visual area in that direction. Of course, what would also happen is if you just shifted left and right, kind of turn to the left, kind of turn to the right, the screen would actually scroll each time because you're changing your focus of direction. But it always made it that you had 2/3 of the screen ahead of you available for visually seeing stuff coming at you.
All right, I think there's pros and cons to that, because one of the things that the jump scare concept, I kind of like that idea where you don't know what's going to happen until it's almost too late, with this game in particular.
Yeah. But I also like to give the ability for the player to get out of the situation with their skill.
Okay. William says if you want to run Temple of ROM in MAME, to do it as a CoCo 2 and not a CoCo 3, and it should be okay.
That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. That might have something to do with the version that's on the Coco Pi. You got the latest Coco Pi image run?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's not that. It's the patch that William did. We just did today. So it's
the patch. Is it a patch for MAME, or is it a patch for Temple of ROM?
No, it's a fix for MAME.
Okay.
It was a bug in the Gimme emulation.
Okay. But if you're doing Coco 2, that should be not applicable.
Right.
And I think Ron's saying he's having an issue playing it in Coco 2 emulation as well.
No, I haven't tried it in 2 years.
Oh, okay. Try that then. Yeah, it's a neat little game.
Works fine.
Okay.
I just prefer the P mode, the 4-color mode, because it looks a little bit more sharp.
That's exactly why you want to have 2/3 in front of you.
Your look ahead, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's better for the player, but it's bad for the surprise factor. So, yeah. I swear to God, looking at it kind of small like this now, it does look like the Farfall guy. But there's only so much you can do with so many pixels, I mean, pretty much every video game character looked like a stick figure at some point in time. The Atari baseball.
Well, what do you expect for the 128 by 96 graphic screen?
Yeah. Now, this game also supported 2 players, right? You're playing 2 players, looks like, right there, huh, David?
Yeah, well, it's because MAME is set for the joystick on both.
Yeah.
So when I hit the fire button, it started it as a 2-player.
Hey, Curtis Boyle has joined us in the live stream. Hello, Curtis. I wonder if he's going to be doing Stream of Consciousness here, too.
Yeah, when
he's not going to have me reading it. He better join voice. Get in here, Curtis.
Yeah, when I did Pitfall 2 for the Coco, it was basically a little stick figure. And then when I did Super Pitfall, that was a translation from the Super Nintendo. Or, no, from the Nintendo, one or the other.
NES or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was the NES. Anyways, if you notice, the guy looked more like a character.
Yeah.
They physically made him larger, made the background larger. But by that time, we had a little bit better processing power with the Coco 3, and we could really make the characters look into something and also be a little larger. So we could make them look like a a person.
Right.
Of course, one of the things I remember Activision was not happy with the Super Pitfall game was that the guy was now carrying a gun and could shoot bullets.
Yeah, that was a strange departure from Pitfall 1 and Pitfall 2.
It's Super Pitfall.
Yeah.
Had the gun.
Right. But yeah, Pitfall 1 and 2 did not, so it was definitely a strange direction to go in. I wonder who...
Nintendo.
Oh, Nintendo wanted that, huh?
Yeah, Nintendo basically did a general license of the concept, and then they created their own game. And then Tandy got the rights from Nintendo and Activision to do the game on the Coco, and they contracted me to do it.
Okay. That's I didn't...
Yeah, I still remember in my office having an entire wall of the map of the game set up. So... And I actually, when I designed the map, it was on a CoCo. It got printed out using a CoCo in its printer, color printer, one of the inkjets. And I just cut the pieces of paper together and made the entire map up on the wall, which went from floor to ceiling and about 20 feet across.
Wow. Yeah, I had not played it back in the day. I remember reviewing it one time for a YouTube video and just seeing how massive the world was. It was quite impressive how big the world was. There's a lot of stuff. And you had to do that in, what, a 32K ROM too?
Yeah, it was a 32K ROM, and it was a 4 megabit ROM on the NES. I did a little bit better job compressing the world. Okay.
Somebody had left a comment on that video too, and I forgot who it was, but I think it was somebody who had disassembled the NES version, and he was saying that it was really, really bad coding for an NES game. Matter of fact, I forgot how he put it, but it was like he's saying that this was almost probably one of the worst ever NES games made as far as just how it was designed or written or something like that. It was just... I don't know, and I have nothing to compare it to since I've never seen any of the code of these things before. But I thought that was just an interesting thing to, to hear somebody say.
Yeah, I think it was done by one of their Japanese developers, not done by Nintendo themselves. It was all a contract project.
Okay.
But yeah, it was definitely interesting doing Pitfall 2 and then doing Super Pitfall. Totally different environments, projects, and everything else. Of course, one's based on an Atari 2600 game, and the other one was based on the NES, which had more capability.
Yeah, to me, I don't know the nuts and bolts of what it took to code both those games, but from a consumer perspective, to me it seems like Pitfall 2 seems more impressive because you're dealing with full screen scrolling, whereas in the Super Pitfall was more like a window, a smaller window of scrolling. I'm sure there were certain compromises that had to be made to get it in, and I'm sure it's obviously more impressive on Super Pitfall based on the scale of the game, but to me visually a full screen scroll is always going to trump, in my mind, an experience, a game playing experience over a partial screen scroll.
Yeah. Well, in the case of the NES, the scrolling of the screen was all hardware, and none of it was having to do all the software like we do, because we're constantly having to redraw the screen to give any motion. Now, in the case of the Atari 2600, scrolling the screen's pretty easy. But what's hard is actually making something that looks good as a scrolling screen because of the way the system is designed. And it, you had to do every scan line in 76 clock cycles. You had to literally build the screen one line at a time. So the only time that you had to do any game work and figure out what's happened, did the player push a button, and etc., was during what we call V-blank. That's when the computer normally builds up the screen, and then you got the trace of the screen going around back up to the top, and that is very little time to do anything. And it's amazing the stuff they got out on the Atari 2600.
It is. It's amazing and impressive too, because I mean, some of the titles. Hey, David, can you hear me?
Yep.
Did you watch that other video that Share Squid guy put down? He's saying that when you shoot and it explodes against the wall, that kind of shrapnel effect, that can also be used to take out bad guys. So you can sometimes use that to your advantage. Like right now, start shooting the wall. There you go. You see that? You got him. You got him with the shrapnel. That's a trick I don't know that I was consciously aware of, but watching that video, I really like that one too. That other video that he posted, just kind of sharing some insights and kind of philosophies of the game. He's obviously this is a favorite game of many Coco consumers, but this Share Squid guy, this game meant a whole hell of a lot to him, because I never for once in my mind saw this as a three-dimensional game. I saw it for what it was, a top-down 2D dungeon, and I liked it, but I never saw this as, I'm inside here. And now Dungeons with Daggerith, I did. Dungeons with Daggerith created that immersion, but for what was his name again? The Share Squid guy, John Day. So yeah, for him, he in his mind created his own immersion in this game, which is pretty impressive. The imagination of a child. But I didn't see it that way. I saw it as we're looking at it now, and it was good enough as it was. The 3D treatment is really nice, though.
One thing about a game like this is you've got to really just remember the map visually in your head. There's just, what you've already gotten, where you have to go to get to this other section, and like that, which was also a complaint that people have with Megabug. The maze was many times the size of the screen.
Right. Now, did Megabug have an end?
Each maze just got harder and harder.
Okay. So if you completed, I don't know if I ever did, but if you completed a maze, it would just generate a new maze?
Yep. And the mazes, the way they got harder is that initially it would draw the maze as if there's only one path to go through the whole thing, to go from one point to another. Mm-hmm. And of course, those bugs chasing you meant that eventually they're going to find you. But what I would do is the early mazes that you started doing, I would break holes in the wall to give you outs.
Okay.
And then as you played the game, there was less and less outs.
Okay.
More dead ends.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes it more challenging.
And they were all random.
Mm.
See, the random number generator normally wouldn't have something that would actually allow it to generate a random starting point, but you typing in things on the keyboard, you pressing the start button, that all varied the random number generator.
Yeah, I'm overdue to review that one too. I'm going through them alphabetically, and I forgot the one I was getting ready to.
It's going to be a while before you do Zaxxon then.
Yeah. Here, speaking of Zaxxon, so here's something too, because most of my childhood experiences of playing Zaxxon were actually playing the CoCo version, and the CoCo version of Zaxxon was a perfect alternation between the two carriers, where you had the first carrier, which with all the fuel tanks and rockets and planes, and the second carrier always had the force fields and the Zaxxon robot at the end. Is that a true statement? It just always directly alternated between those two?
Well, you had three stages. First fortress, space, second fortress.
Okay, right.
And then the robot at the end. And that's basically the pattern over and over again. And there was, in the original arcade games Zaxxon, there was two display systems. You had a background bitmap, and you also had a character system that scrolled. And that was actually used more for sprites, the way you do a game of sprites. But the problem was, you had a limited amount of background. And, of course, we'd use the character mapped characters to change the patterns from level to level. and also the explosions and the ships moving and like that. But yeah, the original Zaxxon that I got my hands on, I did not care for it. It was, you know how everybody complains about the pastel mode on the Coco with the purple? They use a pastel color set for everything.
Wow.
I mean, they had black for space, but everything else was pastel. And it was more of a fantasy game because at the end you battled a dragon.
Which that's the one they brought back for Super Zaxxon or Zaxxon 2 or whatever it was called.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What I did notice about the arcade Zaxxon 2, though, is that you wouldn't get to the force field fortress unless you had destroyed all 20 ships in the outer space part. So, because it would tell you, like, enemy planes remaining or whatever. And if that number didn't reach 0, and when you finished the space part, you went back to the first fortress again. You would not get to that second fortress.
That's not true. The only thing that, if you got all 20 planes, you got a bonus when you completed space. But you would always complete space by a certain amount of time.
On the arcade version?
On the arcade version.
Because I did it in MAME, but I just remember playing it not too long ago and having that experience of like, well, why am I back on the first fortress? So I think my mileage may have varied on that one. But
yeah. Well, sometimes the second fortress in the beginning looks like the first fortress when it first starts. And if you don't complete the fortress, you don't know you've gone to the second one. But you're right, there are more force fields but on the second fortress than the first.
Gotcha. So Curtis says he's not near a computer. He's actually watching us on a friend's Apple TV. So, yeah, what a tragic waste of technology. There are so many better things you could be watching.
Hey, Steve, you haven't done anything for Timmy in his wheelchair. Look at those poor icons there. You know, they're just.
Yeah, look at that. We have 5 likes. We have 1 love. We have 1 haha, 1 wow. We have no sads or no angries right now. So yeah, we're running a pretty good emoji gamut here.
Actually, we can get some angries in there. We can spend 1 minute harping on the MC10.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run a couple commercials so everybody can take a potty break. So I'll run about 2 or 3 commercials to give us all a minute and a half break. We got 16 people watching us live. You are listening to CoCoTALK After Dark on Facebook Live, and we have a cast of characters here with us tonight, and we're just kind of picking up the pieces where we left off today. Right now, David Ladd's playing Temple of ROM. Qui-Gon Jinn is being a silent participant. Ron Delvaux's over there doing God knows what. Jason the Coco Man's with us. Alan Huffman is with us. Nick Marenti's joined us from Australia. G'day, Nick. Welcome back.
G'day, everyone.
And maybe after the break, Nick, we can talk about what you wanted to talk about earlier today. You said you did have another, like, why did Tandy do that question.
We can leave that, yeah.
All right, and John Strong's with us. Jim Brain from Retro Innovations is with us. The legendary Steve Bjork, the informable copier of hardware Richard Lorbieski is with us. And last but certainly not least, we have Grant Leedy recovering from hepatitis Z. Or what did you have? Tuberculosis, bronchitis? I forgot what you had. Pneumonia. What did you have, Grant? I forgot. Some type of illness.
No.
You going to give me the silent treatment now?
Laryngitis.
Laryngitis. There we go. Yes. All right. So yeah, one of the likes turned into an angry. That might have been Grant. Okay. So we're gonna we're gonna go to commercial. We'll be back after these words. Okay.
CoCoTALK After Dark. CoCoTALK After Dark.
Hey, have you got your Coco 3 yet? Hi, this is Rick Adams, author of Temple of ROM and Shanghai, and you've tuned into CoCoTALK, the nation's leading live talk show featuring the Tandy color computer.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer CoCoTALK. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the original gamer CoCoTALK. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the original gamer CoCoTALK sent you.
Hi, I'm Mike Rowan, and you're watching the original gamer, CoCoTALK. And when you're done watching, come over and listen to the Coco Crew podcast.
Hi, this is John Linville.
And Neil Blanchard.
We are the Coco Crew. I hope you're enjoying watching CoCoTALK play video games, especially the Coco games. And when you're done with that, check out our podcast at CocoCrew.org.
What's going on, everybody? Original Gamer CoCoTALK here, and if you're a fan of vintage computing and retro gaming, then you're going to love our retro swag shop at 8bit256.com. There you will find custom designs by Instagram artist Joel M. Adams. You can get I'm a Coconut, CoCoTALK, and other cool video game images on a t-shirt, coffee mug, or mouse pad. So if you love retro, then head on over to the retro swag shop at 8bit256.com today. Tell them the Original Gamer CoCoTALK sent you. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me. It's Original Gamer CoCoTALK. You know, gameplay. To get your copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD today, head on over to 8bit256.com. There you will find several DVDs featuring color computer gameplay videos by the original gamer CoCoTALK. So to get your very own copy of a Gameplay Goodness Color Computer Gaming DVD, head on over to the Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com and tell them the original gamer CoCoTALK sent you. There we go. Shameful plug for the Retro Swag Shop. And anybody here besides Ron Delvaux and I got retro swag they can show off? I think Alan Huffman's showing off his I'm a Coconut t-shirt on his thumbnail there. But yeah, so at the Retro Swag Shop, we've got these cool coffee mugs like the ones that say I'm a Coconut. You can also get, other designs like Atari and Sega. Okay, Ron's holding up his, which you can't see. Let me switch back, Ron. Okay, Ron's holding up his CoCoTALK mug there, which is... yeah, that's the new deluxe CoCoTALK logo. Looking good, right? It's a good-looking mug, right, Ronnie?
Yep, it sure is.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool. Speaking, and that just kind of brings it back with what we've been talking about today. So today we've been talking about Temple of ROM, created by Rick Adams. And where did the idea for the swag shop came from? It came from Rick's son, Joel Adams, who happens to be a very talented artist. And he reached out to me one day and he says, hey, you interviewed my dad and this and that and the other. And he's like, I do art and I draw pixel art and I draw things and I put stuff up on Instagram. And he's like, I would love to do something for you for your YouTube channel, maybe create you a logo or a banner or something like that. So it kind of started that way, and he gave me a nice, cool version of my insert coin logo. And he also drew like a little background banner that I use for my Facebook page and things like that. And then I started looking at his stuff, and his artwork was really good. So I was like, Joel, we really should make some t-shirts and stuff because your artwork's really cool. And so it kind of started from there. So he drew the how do you guys explain the dragon from Adventure, because the best example I heard was it looks like a seahorse, you know. But he's got one with the event.
Dragon. This time I've been afraid of ducks. Okay, never mind.
You know, so Joel drew that dragon from Adventure. He drew some Space Invaders. He drew some asteroid stuff. So there's a lot of cool pictures he drew that we have available as T-shirts. But the coolest thing, it looks like John Linville's getting ready to hold something. Not John Linville, but John Strong. What do you got there, John Strong? Hold it up a little higher because the Skype stuff is getting in the way. Oh, that's your gems? Gems, yeah. So that's the title screen from your game, right? Gems too.
Yeah. Yes, and then.
And yeah, I have that shirt. I bought
That's
shirt
a little dirty. It was there to be washed, but.
Yeah. There you go.
And so I've done shirts for a long time for the Coco.
Yeah. Cool stuff. Little shameful plug there too. Speaking of shameful plugs, yeah. But so yeah, Joel Adams, son of Rick Adams, drew the artwork that we're using in our swag shop, and then he drew the Coco for us. That is the logo for the I'm a Coco Nut and the CoCoTALK and stuff. I kind of just showed him some pictures from the book, the Programming and Basic book, that kind of cartoony Coco guy, and Joel just kind of brought him to life a lot of different ways, and looks really cool, and it's very iconic for those of us who remember that book. So cool stuff. So we're back on CoCoTALK After Dark, number 8, picking up the pieces from where we left off today. So what else do we want to talk about here today, gentlemen? Yeah, there's the crickets.
How about the different ways that you can fry up crickets?
Different ways you can fry crickets, yeah.
I thought Nick had something.
Yeah.
Or was he going to bank that? Yeah.
Let's put Nick on the spot.
So you want me to talk about something? Well, since we were talking about remakes of Rick's game there, seeing what someone else has created in a 3D game, a modern version on modern hardware using modern everything, I thought I'll might as well let everyone see a remake that someone's made on modern hardware, modern computers, of my old Donut Dilemma game.
Oh, yeah, neat.
So,
by the way, Jason, in honor of you being on the Upside Down, he has turned himself upside down too. So yeah,
and I've got the outline of Australia. That's my Australian camera mode.
And that's the way we see things. See, Australia is the right way up. Everyone else is upside down. Yeah, so what I'm going to attempt to do is to try share this screen I have. Now, this fellow was a fan of Donut Dilemma. Donut Dilemma on the Tirasati Model 1.
Okay.
So he had bought my Donut Dilemma way back in 1983 off me directly. And he's been a big fan ever since. Now, since those days, of course, he's gone and he's learnt programming and doing graphical design and has written a few commercial quality games. And on the side, he thought one day he'll have a crack at redoing one of his long favourite games, Donut Dilemma. So he started. He didn't complete it though, but he did send me a copy of what he had done so far. So I am going to attempt to share a screen. I don't know if this will share, but we'll give it a try. Last. Doesn't seem to want to share it. I thought it was a bit weird. Right, hang on, let's try this. All right, can you see that?
Give it a second. Yes, we can.
Okay. Now the game you can't end the game. It's just like a test version. You can see in the top left he's got various test indicators that he was doing during development. And the thing you can see straight off is how much more sophisticated the graphics are over the original color computer.
Yeah.
And apart from all the sprites looking much better, of course, you got that background, all the cogs spinning in the background.
Yeah, that's neat.
And your little man, he has his own little funny gait, and he's walking around with a bottle in his hand. You can still climb ladders. You can grab your dough bags. Got to remember how to jump now. Whoops, not like that.
I've heard of some kind of bags, but I've never heard of dough bags before.
Well, it's a bag of dough. Or a bag of money. Wait till I get my reflexes in order here. Why isn't it? Oh, yeah, wrong button. Anyway, it's basically he's copied a lot of the levels from the original game. There's my jump, so here we go. Hey. I'll throw it. There we go. Splatterated one donut.
The explosion looks good, yeah.
Yeah. Climb another ladder. This is the level 1, so there's nothing really spectacular about this one. It's the easy level.
Right. You know, the pseudo 3D kind of reminds me of what they did with Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo, kind of like a 3D rendered 2D sprite, you know?
Yeah. Now, I don't know if there's any sound coming through now.
Negative.
Oh, yeah, the lift works. And this is the next level where you got the stuff, throwing stuff at you. Oops. I'll just see if I can share the audio as well. There is a bit of audio in that too, but whether that'll work. Okay, is that working at all? Can you hear anything at all?
Not really, no.
All right, so it's not sharing audio. Okay, I'll just get up out of the way.
It looks good though.
Oh, it's very good, yeah.
Now, didn't you do a version of this too for the Maximite?
Well, I did. I did one for the from the TRS-80 Model 1. I did one for the TRS-80 color computer, of course, and I did one for the Maximite.
And that one, the guy literally looked like Mario from Donkey Kong, right?
Yeah, I just ripped that off. As you do. Oh, I died somehow. Oh, yeah, the thing got me in the head. Of course, I'm no good at this with the keyboard control. Then again, the original game was keyboard, but the old reflexes aren't quite the same.
And that's like icing or something that's being fired across there right now?
This is the fat spurter screen, so there's big turrets on the sides there that show fat being squirted across the floor.
Okay.
I'm not going to drive everyone mad by watching everyone see me die, but you can see what he's done. Absolutely. And I think he was going to have extra levels as well, apart from the ones which are replicas of mine. He was going to add some extra ones. But that's Donut Dilemma in its full modern day 3D glory, which unfortunately is incomplete.
Yeah.
And it would have been nice to see it finished.
Yeah.
Those gears in the background are cool.
Yeah, it's a neat treatment. I see this as a natural progression of what I would end up doing if I got back into making games and I made a few games. I think that's the next step. You know, make it on the Coco first, do the proof of concept, do what you wanted to do, scratch the itch, and make the Coco game. But then when you're done with that, why not make a remastered version that could be played on a bigger audience worth of machines? You know. And I think I would like to do something like this once I learned how to do that.
I don't know what language he used or whatever, but it is impressive.
Yeah. There's a big market for these. If you go to the Steam store and you look for indie games, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of brand new games that people are making that look and play like 8-bit and 16-bit platformers. They're very popular. And there's a couple of really good documentaries on Netflix about this too, about some of these things. Like Super Meat Boy is one of them, and there's a bunch of games where, you know, these indie retro influence platformers they're very, very popular.
Well, that was the intent of this one.
Yeah. This is my kind of game. I like games like this. Yeah.
Needs a joystick.
Yes.
Anyway, that's Donut Dilemma for PC.
Joystick for the win. How many versions? So is this version 4 of Donut Dilemma? Let's see. There's TRS-80. There's Coco, Maximite.
I did 3, and then there's this, which is incomplete. Yeah.
So this is almost like a fan favorite.
This is a fan one.
Yeah. So you yourself have done 3 versions of your game. Well, so we're talking about Rick Adams possibly redoing or adding on to Temple of ROM. You have taken one of your games and done 3 versions of it. So what are your feelings about doing that? And I know you mentioned when you did Popstar Pilot, you didn't want to just do another remake or update. You want to do something new and original. But having done it, what are your thoughts on that process and that experience?
Oh, I still have an interest to do that, to take a game that I've done in the past and do it better. But by the same token, I have ideas to do other games. I mean, the game I'm doing now, Gunstar, is really a game I did essentially have already done on the TRS-80 Model 1 called Escape Zone. It's a bit of a different game, but it's a vertical shooter. And I've always liked vertical shooters. You don't seem to see very many vertical shooters anymore. Everything's 3D, and the good old vertical shooter from the late 80s and even early 90s. Remember all those? They were great. But you don't see so much of that. So my Gunstar is basically, in a way, a remake, but it's a revisioned remake. And for anyone who hasn't seen my Escape Zone, if you wait 2 secs, I could actually bring it up. I do recall I have got it somewhere here. Running on a TRS-80 Model 1 emulator. Actually, I might even have a video that'll save me looking like a fool.
Too late.
Too late.
You're amongst friends here.
Yeah, right.
Are you sure about that? Are you really sure about that? Right, David?
Strangers pretend to be nice to each other. Friends don't care.
About to say.
Let's see if I'm lucky enough to have a video of this. And I don't. Oh, well, that's really wonderful. Now you're going to have to see me actually play it.
All right, that was good. We enjoyed watching you play Donut Dilemma. Not.
I enjoyed watching you play it as much as you enjoyed playing it.
Let me guess, Nick. Your next game is Donut Dilemma 2, The Knots. The little donut holes.
The nuts. Okay, well, I found my emulator. Now I just got to find my program. So, hang on 2 seconds.
Well, we have 2 angries now. I don't think it's anything to do with you. So,
probably my bad joke.
Yeah. And Curtis Boyle says, "With friends like this, who needs enemies?" Right?
Oh, that's right.
With friends like this, who needs enemas? But
Hey, it's definitely an AfterDARK show.
Oh yeah.
Preparing to share.
I'll be here all week. Try the fish.
Sharing the joy.
Sound to port 1 or 2.
Oh.
That whole idea. I mean, the TRS-80 Model 1 had sound that went through the cassette port, but down here, if you've heard of Dick Smith Electronics, he sold a computer which was a clone of the TRS-80 Model 1, but it had its cassette port routed to a different port. So this was really solely so you chose the port. Port 1 being a TRS-80, port 2 being for this other clone computer.
Okay.
What I'm trying to do right now is to also share the audio, and if this doesn't work, well, too bad. Okay, here we go. I'm going to press 1. Now, the company I set up was called Fun Division, and that's set up to look like 2 eyes, a nose, and a smiley face.
Okay.
Is the sound coming through on that one?
Negative, Ghost Rider. Move the mouse. Right. Your mouse is covering up the screen. Escape Zone by Nicholas Marentes.
Okay. Well, imagine this fantastic sound effects, because it does actually have some pretty fantastic sound effects for a TRS-80 Model 1. But you're not going to hear it here. But Escape Zone.
Can't you put your mic down there?
Page, little instructions.
Ooh.
This whole idea of going from a title screen to an instruction screen and then maybe even a demo screen and then back again was basically set up by a company. That whole presentation style was set up by a company called Big Five Software. Have you heard of Big Five? He did all the great games, TSA Model 1.
He was not as great as you think, because I caught him dumpster diving behind my office one time.
All right.
He was there stealing code.
Oh, really?
Yep.
What's his name again? He's I forget his name. Bill. No, that's not Bill. Anyway, so he always did all his games with a title screen, jump to a high instruction page, a high score page, and then showed the demo. There's the demo of the game.
Oh, look at that.
So in this one, imagine you're flying through the tunnels in Star Wars. So you're supposed to escape from within an enemy vessel. You're trapped. Okay. You've got to get out. And it starts off by being very straight, the tunnels, and then it'll start to curve. And I don't know how far the demo will go before dying, so you may not see it. But I don't know how far I can get through. I haven't played this in years. But one of the big things I did with this game...
It's very commercial quality. I'll give you that.
Yeah. Well, this was my last TS80 Model 1 game, so by this time I had learnt a thing or two. But the big thing with this is, of course, you can see the title screen remains on the screen and the game played in the background. I was trying to do this sprite overlay effect, and it just blew up there. So that was something nice I wanted to add in as an effect in the game. I will now attempt to start the game. Drum roll, please.
Okay. I like how this emulator does good scan lines, too.
Yeah, no, it's a good little emulator, this. Now, I probably won't last long. The gunshots are very Defender-like. I was a fan of Defender, even though I couldn't play it. But I will attempt to get through. Now, there's energy, and one of those things on the side, you have to get them as you go, and I'm doing absolutely terrible. This is what you don't do. So everything I'm doing, just look at it in inverse.
Right. Now,
don't try this at home.
Can you make yourself go any higher on the screen, or are you always at that bottom position?
At the bottom.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, it's starting to weave left and right.
Yeah, the speed's picking up too.
Then start to get narrow. Oh, I've got an energy thing, good.
Speed's picking up.
Eventually you will get out of the big enemy vessel and you go into open space, and then there's more aliens from there. Oh, I'm out of ammo. I can't fire. That's it, I'm dead. Oh,
I was going to say.
I just picked up a thing, good.
So you have limited resources, kind of a wing commander element now.
Yep. So. Just firing like crazy here. No strategy required.
Insert coin. Insert coin, hit fire button, repeat.
I'm out of ammo again, and I'm dead. All right, anyway, if I had lasted a bit longer, I would have got out of the enemy spaceship and then into open space where you've got aliens flying around, zipping all over the place, firing at you, the usual palaver. So, getting back to your question about whether I'm going to do another remake, Gunstar is sort of a remake of this, although a lot more detailed. It'll have more of a background, I'm hoping, and I am hoping to have that sprite effect where I can have an overlay while the title page is in front and the action in the background for a demo. Well, at this point, I haven't gotten very far in the game itself due to other things getting in the way, but I am back on track now, so hopefully I'll have something new on the website to say what the heck I've been doing all this time.
Yeah, neat. Do you happen to know? I don't know if you remember seeing the presentation from Tandy Assembly from last October, but the TRS-80 emulator for Android with the built-in app store, where you can run the emulator on an Android device, and then you can also download apps to run in this emulator. Do you remember that presentation?
No.
Okay. I thought that was pretty neat, and I was just wondering if you knew if your program was available, because I think they're making sure they have things that are sanctioned as far as approval for distribution and stuff, but I know there's a handful
of
TRS-80 games that they're... I thought it was a great concept where they took an emulator engine that already existed. They didn't reinvent the wheel, and they just kind of repackaged it and made it work for Android devices. And then they added the component of this app store where people could publish apps, and you could download the apps and install them and run them on the emulator and stuff. So it's kind of like what iTunes for the TRS-80. So it's a really cool concept. Right. And obviously there are some gray areas with copyright there, but they've provided the framework, and obviously you're going to hope that the people who are publishing apps are respecting the copyrights, and they do try to do some diligence to make sure whatever's published is verified as having permission to be out there and stuff. So,
right. I've since found the video.
Okay, so here's the video.
You might actually see a bit more.
Okay.
Anyway, here we go.
Fire it up.
No sound, I assume.
Escape zone.
We'll just make our own sound.
What do you think? Do you know what your sales figures were for this? Like number of units?
Oh, not much. I mean, back at around this time, I was still in high school. I was doing this stuff as a way of not doing my homework. So, yeah, dear, have you done your maths? Yes, I'm in the front of the computer doing my maths. Tap, 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 Z80 code. It all looked like maths to them, so that was fine. I don't know, probably only 30 copies at the most.
Oh, wow.
Back in those days, 30 copies meant a bit of pocket money. I could go out and buy my lollies and whatever else I was buying then. $20 was a lot of money for a kid in high school, so...
Yeah.
Anyway, that's...
Are the walls destructive? Like, if you hit the wall, does it damage your ship?
Yeah, you do lose energy. At the very top, you can see an energy bar.
Yeah.
So it doesn't blow you up, but if you don't get out of the way of those walls... here we go.
Okay, now you're in outer space.
I've made a video, so I've been able to jump forward. So here you see...
Oh, that was a big UFO.
There's a couple of big things there.
Yeah. It's amazing what you can do with not so many pixels,
This is the thing. The TRS-80 Model 1 was very low resolution, 128 by 64 pixels, monochrome.
Right.
And it had no sound. It was even less sound than a color computer. It had sound very similar to an Apple II.
Yeah.
It's too bad you can't hear the sound, because the sound is really spectacular, really.
Now, what you did there is because this was really similar, like a semi-graphics, like an SG4 or something for us on a CoCo,
This is
right?
essentially the same as what a normal color computer 32-column screen does, except on a TRS-80 it wasn't 32, it was 64 characters.
Right, and so your stars were dots, right? Periods.
Dots. Yeah.
Yeah. So they look high resolution. Yeah.
No, not as standard anyway.
Yeah. No.
But otherwise, it's the same as using the BDG screen minus color.
Mm-hmm.
A screen took up 1K. On a color computer, it takes up 512 bytes.
Right. No, it's good. It looks really good. It's amazing what the TRS-80 was able to pull off with its limited resolution.
There was some pretty good games out there for the... Which I'll just stop this, if I can just remember how to shut it down. There we go. I don't know if I've got any other videos I can show you while we're talking about me and what have I got? I got Donut Dilemma. Stellar Odyssey, Gladiator. Has anyone seen my Gladiator game? You've probably never seen that.
I'm not sure.
I will
Fire it
attempt
up.
to find a video. Hopefully I don't. Well, I won't embarrass myself and attempt to play it.
Right. What was the conference? Was it a game developer? Was there some type of conference recently in the past year and a half or so where somebody was reviewing games and they said that Donut Dilemma was probably one of the best?
Yeah, I don't know what that was. Something in the US there about game design. It wasn't just for the TRS-80. It was game
no. But it was
in general, and someone had popped up there, and it's on YouTube. I must try and find it again.
Yeah, but it was kind of interesting because he had stumbled across your game just recently and said, man, this is like actually one of the best Donkey Kong style games for the TRS-80.
Well, I've always thought Donut Dilemma was actually my best game on the TRS-80 Model 1, hence why I've redone it 2 more times.
Yeah.
Always trying to make it better.
Yeah. It's kind of like, think of Star Wars Special Edition. Now, many would argue, did he actually make it better? But I think it's the same idea, where he had the original source material, wasn't quite happy with it. And if you're a fan, maybe he's done more harm than good with this several revisions of the special editions. Oh, wow, look at this.
Now that's Donut Dilemma. The original Donut Dilemma. Look at that high res, multicolor, 24-bit, incredible resolution.
But interestingly, even in this resolution, you had animated the donuts. The donuts look squishy and bouncy. Yeah. They're not static.
No. Now, I think this was 1983. So what's that? 40 years ago?
Pow! It exploded and it said pow. Pow! It's like Batman. It literally is pretty impressive. Richard says, let's see the Model 1 3D version. Ken says, do you like games about gladiators, Joey? You ever seen a grown man naked? We're doing airplane quotes now, so. Oh, man. No, yeah, it looks good. And you have like 3 different states for your character. So if he's standing still, he's looking straight at the camera.
That's
and then you have face left, face right. So you've got the different states for your. The scrolling is very nice. Was that the dough bag you just picked up?
Yep, the dough bag.
Yeah,
douche bag.
I've been called other bags before, but yeah, there's your dough bag. So, and there is the laser beam or whatever it is that's icing or sugar.
Spurter.
Fat sprayer.
Well, everything had to have a cooking theme to it. So there was no such thing as lasers. Every level had there were fat spurt. This was the fat spurters. There was the cream blaster level. Various everything was a food related thing.
It's the frickin' laser. Yeah.
And
So the bouncy donut.
Yeah, all this came about because back in the early 80s, our family actually ran a donut bar, a little kiosk in a mall, and we had a machine, a big donut making machine. Well, when I say big, it's sat on the table type thing. It's not a whole room thing. It sat on the bench. You poured in your dough mix into one end of it. It automatically dropped the dough into the oil in the correct pattern, so it started cooking a donut with the hole in it. A conveyor inside the machine would push the cooking donut along in the oil. Halfway along, it would have a little thing that would flip the entire donut over, so it cooked the other half of the donut. And eventually it would get to the end of it where there was another conveyor which would bring the donut out and drop it into another rotating dish where it would be set for display, and that was it. And we sold millions of those things. And I was looking at it one day thinking, geez, that's so complicated. There's so much that could go wrong, and there were things that went wrong. And I thought that would make a great game idea. Just a donut machine that has gone haywire. And that's what Donut Dilemma was. It's in this case, it was a 9-store. The Tiro Stadium Model 1 version had 9 levels, 9-floor building. Each building had a different part of the dough making process, I guess. And everything's gone crazy. The donuts have come alive. The donuts are bouncing around and all that. And the only way to bring them back under control is to get to that top floor, because the designers of this building were stupid enough to put the generator at the very top floor. So you have to go climb all the way through that mayhem to the top floor and shut down the generator, and everything was back under control again. The color computer version, which was basically the same 9 levels, but I did add an extra level. I just wanted to round it off to 10. So I came up with an extra level, and that extra level comes up as level 9, and then the generator level. So if you can get to 9, there's the extra level is there, and the Maximite version was the same. It had all the usual 10 levels. But, it's one of my favourite games. I reckon one of my greatest achievements. The character that I chose, the name rather, for the character that you control is called Antonio, and that's actually my father. Anthony is actually his name, but I went for that slightly Donkey Kong Mario type feel, Antonio. And if you ever saw the original artwork, and actually I can probably bring that up, the original artwork that I created for the game, I did see it here a sec ago.
Richard Lorbieski is asking if level 9 is the OS 9 level.
No. That was well before I even knew about OS 9. Let me see if I can find the game packaging. I'd say, there has been another version. I just remembered. I've done 3 versions. Mark McDougall, the fellow who's done several color computer games, he's ported my Z80 Model 1 version across to the Microbead, which was an Australian computer very similar to the TRS-80. It was so similar, it was fairly easy to port TRS-80 model games across to it. And he ported my TRS-80 Model 1 game across to the Microbead. So really, there are 4 versions.
Wow.
4 retro versions of that game. Now, I'm going to bring up the fantastic artwork that I created for the Donut Dilemma package. I'll just get it viewing in my program here. Open in some crappy program. What will I use? I'll just throw it into PaintShop Pro. That's all I've got.
What do you got in the background there, Jason?
Oh, good question.
That looks like Moon Shuttle.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Okay, you're seeing that?
Yep.
Okay, it's in my... I've got PaintShop Pro running on this thing. That's the artwork. And it's pretty high tech, hey? Carefully rendered, hours of rendering.
Fun division.
24-bit grayscale. And you can see Mario there with a little mustache being chased by a donut. Well, that led to another version of the graphics, if I can go back to it.
And you did your own cover art for your albums.
Everything.
You were a one-man shop.
But everything, the packaging, the marketing, the works. And I was in high school then.
That's impressive.
So the good thing about that is that's where I learned how to do a lot of stuff. You learn best by just jumping in and doing it. Doesn't have to be great, but you do it, and then what you don't do very well, you do it better next time. And I've been doing that for the last 30 years. And I still ain't good.
I was going to say, when are you going to get it right?
Steve, you have to remember, back in those days, it was tough to put a team together. I mean, my first Coco games, I was the programmer, the graphic designer, and everything else. James would sometimes help a little bit, but that's the way it was. It was a one-man operation, and I'll tell you, my first Model 1 games, I did the art, the documentation, whole 9 yards. And, there was just no budget for anybody else when you're doing the project. You're not selling, tens of thousands of games. You're lucky if you can get maybe a few hundred sold.
Right. I guess that's one thing where Tandy had some muscle, because Tandy did the artwork and the labels on the Coco stuff. Anyways, they created the packaging and the manuals and stuff. So, and that looks really good.
Well, as I said, you start off with something crappy like this one here, and then the next time round, this was the color computer version I did when I was, selling it by myself. This was the color version made from some donuts I'd cut out from a brochure, this border here on the edge of the title was pulled out from a magazine somewhere. I bought some letter sets, those peel and stick letters, and pasted those on there. Made this little square on my printer, and it was all stuck on this purple cardboard. And that's it. I had color packaging, which I then, of course, did a black and white print of it. But the instructions,
folks, you always wondered where the term cut and paste came from. He just showed you an example of it.
Yeah. That's it. And here's the instruction sheet. Here's the instruction sheet. So I made this. It's on a piece of cardboard, and I did exactly what Steve said: cut and paste. I hand drew the drawing. The lettering is done with peel stick lettering, letter set type stuff. The screens were just printouts from I think I had a CGP 220 plotting printer, that little one that Tandy sold. I printed a few screenshots, cut out some other bits. This was totally cut and paste. I don't know if you can see it on the image, but see these areas here where it looks a little bit wider than the rest of the paper?
Yeah. That's
white out. Because you can, I don't know if you can faintly see the mark where the sticky tape is. It's yellowed over time. Back then it was fairly transparent, but 30 years later, or whatever, 40 years later, it's all yellowed a bit and it all shows up. So you can see it's very cut and paste. And I think I've got the inside instruction sheet as well. Same thing. I'll just print it out, a bit of white out over here for a mistake, another mistake here. But that's it on a dot matrix printer. And then it was all wrapped in a zippy sealed plastic bag.
Oh, yeah.
And the cassette duplication was all done on my CTR-82 recorder, one by one.
Wow.
So it was a lot of work, but I didn't know anything better at the time. For me, I thought I was cutting edge.
Yeah.
Which I probably was back then. There wasn't anyone else doing that sort of thing at the time around my area here. So I thought I was really doing something cutting edge. But when you look at it today, of course, you think, oh,
well, I think everybody was doing that. All the small computer shops were probably doing that. The same thing. They're just photocopying. The cassettes, the cassette labels look like they were done on a typewriter or a dot matrix printer. The game in the baggie, that was the standard distribution back then.
And when you're a kid at high school who's got no money, of course, you're always looking for the cheapest and easiest ways to do things.
Mm-hmm. And one of the cheapest ways to do stuff is the way I handle getting my cassettes made. Is I teamed up with a company that wanted to get into the market of making audio cassettes for games, like the TRS-8, the Apple, and like that. So I worked with them perfecting their technology to record this stuff. And of course, my few hundred tapes I needed kind of dropped off the back end of the truck.
Right.
And so I got my tapes for free.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Now, one thing for people who are always wondering about how do I get into machine code, this is my first game called, I've only got the packaging because I've lost the game since then. I do not have a copy of this, but this was my first TRS-80 Model 1 game. Now, prior to this, when I first started learning machine language on my TRS-80 Model 1, and I'll say this as for all those people beginning, trying to learn assembly language, thinking, it's very hard. How do I create something that's anywhere good? Well, you don't. When you're doing your very first machine language program, it will be crap, guaranteed. My very first machine language program was Frogger. I started by doing a Frogger game, and I had started doing it, and I drew the frogs, and I started writing, machine language, and initially what I thought was really wow. After a while, as I learned more and more about machine language, I then realized that, geez, I could have done this so much better. It was, why did I do that? I could have done that, and I'm doing things the hard way. The more you learn, the more shortcuts you find. And I got to the point where I got halfway and I said, forget it, I'm not going to do this because, one, I can do it so much better. Two, I've got other ideas now. So I wanted to do another idea, and that was this cosmic bomber. So I turfed my Frogger. Frogger was a learning experience on how to get into machine language, the whole process. And then back then, the process was load from cassette my editor assembler program. That took about 3 minutes from tape. Next was load in my source code that I'm currently working on. That took anything from 2 minutes to 5 minutes. As the program got longer, the loading times got longer. So it could take, towards the end of a game, it was 5 minutes to load, on top of the 3 minutes to load the editor assembler from tape. Then I had to do my changes. Then I had to save that source code. There was another 5 minutes. Then I reset the computer. Save my source code and then compile it to be a runnable program. That was another minute or two. Then reset the computer, load in my assembled code, run my program, only to see it come crashing down, errors, whatever. And then you did the entire cycle all over again, correcting the mistakes and trying again. Very long-winded, wouldn't ever do it again. But back then, that was it. I'd never even seen a disk drive at that point. I thought I was cutting edge. I thought I was a Mickey Mouse. But, you learn. In other words, don't have high expectations if you're just starting out. Don't expect, I'm going to do a Zaxxon program. Bang, here I go. I'm going to learn it. Machine language, I'm going to do Zaxxon. Well, no, you're not. You are going to do something really crappy, and you may even get sick of it before you get very far. But if you persevere and learn just learn as you go, find out the things you could do better, eventually you'll get to be able to write something like Zaxxon. I'm sure Steve didn't write Zaxxon as his first program. Steve would have his own set of history to tell you about how he started with assembly language. And I can guarantee you your very first assembly language program was probably crap.
Actually, my first assembly language program was hand-coded in Z80.
Oh, yeah, you didn't have an assembler.
Did not even have an assembler, but it allowed me to write the thing on one machine. Now, once I got an assembler, and I went through the same process you did, the next day I went out and bought a second computer. So I had one computer that would edit and assemble the program, and it would basically save out the cassette port, the executable code, to another computer doing a cassette load, and that I would test on. I mean, I did not waste any time doing that because I knew, okay, after doing 1 day of that process, I said, no, this ain't going to happen. Yeah. So I basically went out, earned the money I needed to buy another $600 computer so I could speed up the process.
I didn't have the money to buy a second one, and getting the first one was I got it by lying. It was a typical daddy. I need a computer because everything's going towards computers, and it will help me with my homework. And Dad says, "Okay, I'll get you a computer." Yeah, the biggest lie in history.
Yeah.
But that computer not only got me into programming on the TRS-80, then the color computer, and I'm still doing it. Now, I did eventually get a career in computers as well. So it was really money well spent in the long term. And I still have that TRS-80 Model 1 packed away, and it still works.
Wow. That's a testament right
there. So, yeah, this was my first TRS-80 Model 1 arcade game, of which I have lost the copies. And that's another lesson learned. Always have backups. And back in the early years, what could possibly go wrong? Well, something did. And I lost it.
Every few years, make a backup of your backup because technology will change.
Yep. So ever since then, I've learned to do backups, multiple backups on different media, and I've not ever lost another program ever. And I still have the source code now for all my programs, bar this one.
Wow. Yeah, you've got an impressive catalog, Nick. You really do.
40 years of craziness.
Yeah. And a lot of diversity in the style of games and just top-notch quality. You are, even today, like when you do your blogs, you are... everything is about the presentation. And I also want to give you credit for something else, too, because it was a lot of your suggestions that have helped make our live interview format better, too. So I think when we interviewed the image producers, which was a big group, a group of people, you had the idea, well, let's not worry about what the games look like. They don't need to be the big focus. Let's focus on the interview of the people. Let's make them bigger, and let's make the game part smaller. Because prior to that, what the hell did I know? I've never interviewed anybody before. So I was doing my interviews the same way I was doing my game reviews, where the game was taking up the whole screen, and the interview people were like really small windows off to the side of the screen. And so, you're very much a visual person who's into the presentation and the professional look and the quality of stuff, and that just shows in everything you do, from your blogs to your games. It just reeks of quality and production value.
I'm glad you added those other words, because otherwise you would have stopped at "it just reeks."
That's just wrong. That's wrong.
Hey, I found another one. Before and going back to learning machine language. I told you about my first machine language.
And hold the thought for 1 second. Has anybody notified the FBI or Interpol or anything else, because we've been hijacked by a foreigner at this point? Is anybody making that call? I've been trying to send out the signals, but
an Austrian.
Hey Nick, what version is that Paint Shop Pro?
That is the glorious version 7. It's about 10 years old.
Mine's version 6 that I use all the time.
Oh, even better. It's a great program. I've been using it forever.
Me too.
I've got no desire to go to anything else. I
know it so well.
They're up to version 15 or something now, and it's more like a Photoshop. It's really fancy, but I don't do Photoshop type stuff. I do just 2D graphics. And version 7 was fine. So anyway, that's what I do. Prior to machine language, for anyone trying to get into machine language, I would say, and I've said it before to people on the list on the Facebook page, if you want to get into machine language, don't just dive in. Why don't you do a hybrid? A lot of people already know BASIC. Well, write a BASIC game, and then look at the parts that are really slowing that game down. For starters, sound might be very slow, or the copying of one part of the screen to another may be very slow. Well, write a machine language subroutine that you would call from BASIC, and that would speed up that part of the program. And that way you are learning assembly language or machine language a little bit at a time. You're doing it at a smaller scale, interfacing it to BASIC, getting a product done. And then with what you learned, you then move on to a full-blown program. So one of my very first, my hybrid program was an adventure game called Stellar Odyssey. And I did a part 1 and a part 2. And part 2 was one, well, I've got a video of part 2 here, so I can play the game. It's, I'll just hit play and then and I can explain it as we go. But basically the premise is that you've woken up from suspended animation, you know, and you're on a spaceship and you're wondering, where are you? You start exploring your ship, and quickly you realize that your ship is actually captured, or no, on this one it was captured. No, that's right. Your ship is actually orbiting around another larger alien spaceship. So the first thing you've got to do is work out, you know, what's going on. How do I get to that alien spaceship? So here we go. So Stellar Odyssey, written in BASIC with machine language subroutines, of which that flashing you saw on the title screen was one of the machine language subroutines to do a very fast flash and the scrolling of the text. That's the game itself.
The graphics are stunning.
If you've ever played in all its high color glory, yeah. If you've ever played the games from the Apple II, I guess, Temple of Apshai, Rescue at Rigel, any of those, they were adventure games whereby you roamed around a maze or whatever. You took I guess it's sort of roguelike, where you walked around, you battled. That is a toilet, by the way.
I was going to say, is that a toilet? Yeah.
That is a toilet. So I found the lavatory. But in my case, I wanted the graphics to be animated, you know, really not looking like a little stick man walking around.
Right.
So I saw the little man walking along the corridor.
I can't figure out how I did it and how to change it.
Hey, Bruce.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, sorry.
So there I am.
Another foreigner cutting in on our main foreigner here. So
a northern foreigner and a southern foreigner. And you walk around, and I'm on the ship and I'm exploring. So I'm not going to play it all. I'll just jump forward to all the highlights. Yet you find a dead body, and you can you've got an area under here where you type your commands. Like a traditional text adventure. So examine old man. Oh, and I misspelled it. Examine old man. He's barely conscious. He murders Kilto. Anyway, you find out later what Kilto is. On the right-hand side, we've got things like wounds, fatigue, very similar to Forest of Doom, I guess.
Okay.
Your visible item appear here.
Oh, yeah, because I was going to wonder, how the hell did you know that was an old man? I would not have been able to tell by looking at him. So
yeah, but well, I examined him. Oh, well,
he's great.
Yeah, you examine it, says old man, and visible item appears here. Anyway, I'll jump forward a bit, see if we can go. Oh, you found a gun. Now, an Uzi 9mm. Now, I don't know what it was, but
you get zap gun. Huh?
Get zap gun. Yeah, that was really creative. So get zap gun. The verb part is a single key. Press G, the word get comes up, and then you type the
okay.
So
that's
it's slightly better, you know, rather than having to type everything. I did that, and moving forward until I eventually I found the spaceship. So by this point, I've worked out that I'm being surrounded by a big enemy ship. Now I have to get down to it, and I'll find the shuttle bay, activate shuttle. Now watch this fantastic graphics. That's it. So I've now shuttled my way to the alien ship. I'm on the alien ship, and now we start exploring the alien ship.
Yeah, I can tell by how the colors have changed.
Yeah, they've all changed to give you that understanding that you're now in a totally different environment. And aliens appear. So the aliens now are appearing, and they sort of warp, and they have a funny way of walking whereby they sort of hop.
I like how the eyes move back and forth. The eyes shift.
The eyes move and all that. Anyway, I'll move forward where we get a few more aliens.
Yeah, their eyes are shifty like David Ladd.
Here we go. Now, there he is. He's like a frog. And he's coming towards me, and I'm going to shoot him. Look at that.
Is that what you did? Looks like you peed on him.
Just got him. Now, there's sound effects in all this as well. So one of the assembly language routines is the sound routine.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so, and the drawing of the screen, you see how the screen flashes when you go into another screen?
Yeah, it's very fast.
There? That's a machine language routine, because BASIC wouldn't be able to do that as fast. So that's what I mean. Write a BASIC program, then write your little assembly language routines for the parts which are really slow, and make them all subroutines that you can call. And before you know it, you've got a program which, looks like a machine language program.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Ken, Jason's brother, says it looks like an early Sierra game, and Michael Newman says, I like the fatigue aspect to the game.
Yeah, there's fatigue and there's wounds and all that.
Yeah.
It's very similar, as I said, to Temple of Abshai or Rescue at Rigel. A lot of those very early Epics games, they were called Epics back then.
Yeah.
I think they were later renamed to something else. What were they called afterwards? They had to change...
Apogee or Epics or Apogee or something like that. Yeah.
Anyway, they had changed their name. But way back then, they had the Temple of Abshai, which was a similar idea. But I looked at that and I thought, well, yeah, that's all good, but I can do it better. I want better graphics. I want the character animated. I wanted when you shot someone, you actually shot someone. So
yeah. I tell you, in a small sense, this reminds me a little bit of Temple of ROM without the scrolling too.
Yes.
And the irony of it is that Temple of ROM is obviously a castle-based fantasy veil to that game. It looks and feels like a fantasy-based game, but when you read the manual, Tandy put it in some type of space setting. Where yours is actually in a space setting on purpose.
It is a space setting, yes.
But it has an adventure feel to it. But it's a space adventure. So you're actually kind of combining a few genres, which is pretty cool.
I've always been an arcade fan. I've never really been a big fan of adventures. Have played a few adventures, but arcade was where I really was interested in. So I wanted to combine the two. I wanted to put an arcade element to a adventure game.
Hey, what
and
was
on
the
that
reason for the toilet?
I'm sorry.
What was the reason for the toilet?
Humor.
Oh, okay.
Humor.
Just to have it there.
Is, have you ever noticed how whenever you watch a science fiction movie in space, no one ever takes a pee? You think, have these guys got, incredibly long-lasting bowels? You never see them go take a crap. So I thought, no, I want realism. There is going to be a toilet. Because in space, everyone can see you shit.
I think that's the quote of this episode.
I was gonna say everyone because he's paraphrasing the line from
they
Alien.
ejected out of the ship too.
Yeah,
a spaceship.
A spaceship.
Anyway, on that note, I think I've waffled on for way too long. So
no, it's been great.
I'm supposed to go and meet my parents.
Okay.
So I better be going now, and hopefully
that was great.
Everyone.
No, this became the Nick Morentis hour, and it was good though. Yeah, it did.
It was about an hour.
It was about an hour, Steve.
Yeah, you gave
an hour. 5 minutes. I was an hour.
Yeah.
Provided some quality content for us. Yeah, it was a nice surprise. I just want to say,
content's always a nice surprise here.
Yeah. Whenever we can squeeze in some quality to the show, it's a nice, refreshing change of pace. But
did anybody know us? Coco Man was upside down for a while. It was a tribute.
Where have you been, Ron?
No one just came back down under. There he is. He's gone back.
Okay. So I want to say 2 things or 3 things, and then we're going to cut to commercial. We're going to come back. But by the way, Nick, thank you so much for that. That was a great little segment. So, yeah, we've got about 20 people watching us right now, and only a few of them are people on my friends list. So there's people here watching us who I'm not sure who you might be. So I thought I would just explain to you kind of what's going on here and what you guys are watching right now. So you are watching a version of our weekly live talk show that we call CoCoTALK, where we mostly talk about the Tandy color computer. But what you just witnessed now for the past period of time is number one, Nick Marentes from Australia, who's made dozens of games for the various systems, was showing us a lot of his TRS-80 content too. So yeah, we do a weekly live talk show. We talk about computery type stuff and retro type stuff. We usually talk about the Tandy color computer, but we are broadening our horizons, and some of that happened here tonight where we talked about things besides the Coco. So if you're watching us on Facebook and you like this format and you like seeing people, and hey, Tony Pedraza of the president of Glenside Color Computer Club just joined us. Hey, Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, you got your Coco 3 yet?
So yeah, you're watching CoCoTALK After Dark, which is a little bit more fast and loose, less rigid, less structured version of our show. I hope you do enjoy it, and we are looking forward to doing more shows like Retro Talk and Geek Talk, where we're going to talk about more things. But this was great, some variety. Thank you so much, Nick Marentes, for doing that from Australia.
All right, thank you.
So what we're going to do right now is we're going to run a couple commercials, let everybody take a chance to take a biological break, and then we'll be back, and hopefully we'll have somebody else who can give us another hour's worth of content, because I don't know what the hell to talk about. So we'll be back, folks, in just a few.
I'll be off. So
all right,
goodbye,
Nick,
everyone.
Nick, thank you so much for that little sharing of your stuff. Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, thanks,
Good day,
Nick.
Nick.
Bye.
See you later.
Thank you, Nick.
Take care. Mm-hmm.
See you next week.
CoCoTALK After Dark. CoCoTALK.
Hi, I'm Kieran Anscombe, author of XRAW, and your brain is resolving sensory input into CoCoTALK.
G'day, mates. This is Nick Marionettes, author of such colour computer titles as Donut Disaster, Rupert Rhymes, and Rockstar Pilot. And I am here today to tell you about the world's most fabulous operating system, OS 9. OS 9 and its current incarnation Nitrous 9 is the most advanced operating system ever created. And what makes it so good? Ease of use. I find OS 9 so incredibly intuitive that I haven't once cracked open the user manual, and yet I've been able to create such incredible games faster than the time it takes to sing Waltzing Matilda. Using OS 9, I expect my next game, Funstar, will be done this weekend and distributed exclusively on ROM cartridge. OS 9 forever.
Any resemblance to actual events to persons living or dead is purely coincidental.
What's going on, guys? CoCoTalk here, and I want to say thank you so much for being part of this adventure with us. It's been such a great experience in doing CoCoTalk every week, and the support we get is just amazing. And so the fact that you watch and listen is all the reward that we need. However, if you would like to become a patron of the show and offer some financial assistance towards the production and hosting costs of the show, we do have a Patreon site available for that, and you can reach that by going to our website at CoCoTalk.live and clicking on the Patreon link. But just do us a favor and watch and listen to the show.
At GSoft, we make games for the TRS-80 color computer, TRS-80 MC10, and Dragon computers. Our basic games cover the range of genres from arcade, to text adventures, to simulations, to 3D dungeon crawls. This is our latest puzzle game from Japan, Fruit Panic. So come on and drop by our website and download our latest games.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's me, it's Original Gamer CoCoTalk. You know, gameplay goodness. Gameplay goodness. You know, gameplay goodness. Alright, people. Gameplay goodness. Thank you so much. You know, gameplay goodness. Yeah. You know, gameplay goodness. Are you ready for this? You know, gameplay goodness. Yeah. Gameplay goodness.
Is there like an advance button or something like that?
Yeah. You know, gameplay goodness. You know, gameplay. This is for you, Richard. I know you love my rap song. Gameplay goodness. All right, people. You know, gameplay goodness.
Oh God, help us all.
You know, gameplay goodness. You know, gameplay goodness. You know, gameplay goodness. Yeah. Drop it low. Gameplay goodness. All right, people. Gameplay goodness. To the flow. Gameplay goodness. Yeah. You know, gameplay goodness. Yeah. That's great. And we are back from commercial. And yeah, and I ran that one just for Richard Lorbieski because I know he loves hearing that rap song. And by the way, just so you know, Richard, I didn't make that song. Myro made that song. He took some samples of me and created that masterpiece, which we know you enjoy. Tony Pedraza, glad to have you with us. If you want to call in on Skype and join us on Skype, you're welcome to. I don't know if you are friends with us, the CoCoTalk account. Tony, if you can hear us too, one of the things we were talking about earlier today is that I don't know that it's exactly clear on the Glenside website about paying for the dinner via PayPal. It is mentioned that the dinner's available and the dinner's $20, but like, for example, on the exhibitor form, if it had mentioned you could pay for the dinner when you reserved your table, that would have triggered me to go ahead and do that too. So maybe if you can revise that form and just make it a little bit more plain and clear and simple for people to know about the dinner and to pay for the dinner too, that might help out a little bit. So a couple observations we just came across. Andrew John Bodner has joined us as well. Bruce Moore is here. Hey, Bruce, how you doing, dude?
Crickets.
Yep. Yeah, Bruce. Before we heard him talking to his wife, now we can't hear him at all. So, all right, that's how it goes with those Canadians. What are you going to do? Ron Delvaux, what happened? Did Ron have a stroke or something? Is he on the bottom of his desk? And what's going on with that camera? Jesus. What's going on? Where the hell is his camera? I don't know if this is Elon Musk's latest feed or the colonoscopy. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at.
He might have fell asleep.
Oh, man. Okay, so Bruce Moore said he did pay for his dinner with PayPal, but yeah, like it wasn't on the form. I did get an email saying we could pay for it, but yeah, I don't know that it was clear to everybody. So I guess our suggestion would be make sure it's a little bit more visible and easier for people to know and find and do. Coco Man looking good in your full color. Bruce is back. Bruce, do you copy?
Okay, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now, Bruce.
I can't hear nothing.
Bruce.
I'm having technical difficulties here.
You are having technical difficulties there. We'll talk about you since you can't hear. Say, what do you guys think about Bruce?
He should stop using an Apple that called it on Skype.
I'm just going to watch you guys on the Facebook here. Skype's not working.
Skype's not working, eh?
Get him an IBM.
Nobody ever got fired for buying an IBM, so So what's the topic today?
Well, I don't know about the topic. I think IBM stands for I'm a big meanie, but that's just a personal opinion.
That's only guys that can't compete with IBM say that.
Not true.
Ken says that Bruce has got a spell cast upon him and he's very affected, yeah. You got the Medusa effect, is turned to stone or something.
Someone has the spell book.
Yeah. Oh, man. So what do you guys think? CoCoTalk After Dark, have we beat it to death or we got more things to talk about tonight?
It's not a Coco project, but it could be.
Oh, jeez.
I have a lot of listening to do. I have not listened to the Coco Crew podcast this month. That is required listening. And Bruce Moore says he used teleportation.
Well, I'm going to drop a hint.
Go ahead, John.
Just to say that somebody's been listening to the CoCoTalk, and some of the hardware requests that they've been making is probably going to happen.
Oh,
I'm not free to go any farther than that because the person hasn't told me I can talk about it, but this will be an interesting year for Coco hardware.
Okay. Hey, Ron, did we wake you up?
Ron Delvaux, now in shaky vision.
My camera fell behind the thing when I left, and then I saw what looked like the bottom of my monitor, and I thought, well, that's not me.
Yeah, we were trying to figure out what the heck that was. So yeah.
Ron's floor.
Yeah. Hey, do me a favor. Point the camera up a little bit higher. Let's all compare ceiling fans.
Yeah. There it is.
Not as close to your head as it is for Grant.
Yeah.
I learned that early on.
So Bruce Moore says, I'm cranking up production on Coco Forever starting this week. Very excited. Yeah, we're excited too. We played a little teaser for it earlier today on our main show, on the original CoCoTalk show.
So is this going to be a game, or is this going to be like a little TV series?
You're going to have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see what Bruce has to say about it. So
the only thing I thought he said was it was going to be episodic.
Episodic. It's going to be very episode-ish. So, yeah. How are we doing on the wheelchair for Timmy right now on our Emoji-thon? We have 7 likes.
Yeah, only one angry. Come on, folks. Get MC10.
MC10 for the win. Yeah, Bruce says, thanks for playing the teaser, and it's going to be mixed media. So,
hey, Steve, how do you feel about the Sinclair, Timex Sinclair machine? It's probably no different than the MC10, wouldn't you say, pretty much? Or
which Steve are you talking to?
You.
Actually, I give a slight edge to the Sinclair because it was cheaper.
But a lot of people really didn't like the membrane keyboard on it.
How well does it hold doors open?
Yeah. It's got a nice edge to it. It'll hold door very well.
Now the Sinclair running on a Z80 processor, yes?
Yes.
Was the Z80 more capable than the 6803 processor?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So in that sense, maybe not as good of a keyboard, but a better CPU.
Yeah. Well, see, the MC10's chip had 2 accumulators and 1 index register, where the Z80 had 2 index registers, which allowed to do 8-bit offsets, plus you had 3 other 16-bit pointers. So it had a lot of ways to talk to memory. It made transferring stuff very fast. But in the case of the MC10, if you want to move information from one location of memory in a block to another location in a block, it was 10 times harder than doing it in a 6809 or Z80.
I just thought of something else too. I want to plug something of Nick's. So you guys have probably heard us talk about the Retro Swag Shop where you can get t-shirts and coffee mugs and stuff too. But I also have links on there to software, new Coco games. So anybody who's selling Coco software online, I have a link to their website on our Retro Swag Shop at 8bit256.com. And Nick Morentis has got, you saw how prolific some of his stuff was. He did a lot of TRS-80 stuff and a good collection of Coco games too. So when Nick released Popstar Pilot last year, which was in a very cool DVD case, and it's a CD-ROM game that is distributed on, and on this disc was the disc image that you could run. You could copy it to a real floppy. You could copy it to the Coco SDC to run on real hardware. You could run it on an emulator. But on this CD, he put his entire Coco 3 catalog. So he gave a lot of bonus content. There's about a good half a dozen or so commercial quality games that came with Popstar Pilot, including a video that he put on there too from Pen Fest 2000. So that was pretty creative. That was kind of kicking off a kind of resurgence and a renaissance on how Coco software is being distributed. So this was one of the first times, well, again, first for me, may not have been the first time in history, but I've been in the Coco community now maybe going on 3 years, but it was the first time I saw a new game produced on a CD-ROM packaging. I don't know. John Strong, had you done that before, put games on CD-ROMs?
Yes, I didn't have the packaging as nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've distributed for several years.
Right, and I had not known of you or your software, and I do apologize for that. But yeah, I didn't know about some of your offerings before I met you. But yeah, I thought that was neat to see it released that way, and it was kind of a neat value added where you bought a new game and you got a bunch of his previous games included with it, and it was a good offering. So that was neat, and I think that spiraled some other things. Obviously, John Strong released a new game in 2016 on ROM cartridge, which was Bomb Squad, and John Linville did a bunch on cartridge, and so that was kind of cool to see cartridges. And then we saw things like Bruce Moore releasing Forest of Doom with a strategy guide as a book, Paul Thayer releasing Timberman on an SD card. So, hey, Brian Schubring, the Music Man, has joined us. Hey, thanks for joining us, Brian. And we talked about Coco Fest earlier today. We might as well talk more about Coco Fest now, since I don't know if Tony Pedraza is still here, but Brian, the Music Man's here, and he's been a mainstay of Coco Fest going back to Pen Fest. So yeah, it's kind of neat that we can get new games and we can get them a bunch of different ways. And so for anybody who's interested, I would say hit up my website. And I would be happy to link to anything you have, John Strong, but I don't know that you're directly selling your software online right now or not. But if you are, let me know and I'll add you to the site.
Mostly it's word of mouth or Coco Fest.
Yeah.
I really should take time to set up a bunch of stuff, but then I don't get to develop anything new if I'm developing old stuff. So catch-22. Yep. Only so much time to play.
Yeah. And it looks like Jason's got Donut Dilemma up here now on the screen. Looking halfway decent there. And there was an interesting story behind Donut Dilemma, too, that Nick had told us, where I think in Australia there was a contest with Radio Shack where they were looking for a new Coco 3 game to be shipped with the Coco 3 around Christmas time. And he had not created a Coco 3 specific game, but I believe Donut Dilemma would change colors. If it detected the Coco 3, it would change the palettes to look a little nicer. And I think it ended up getting distributed with the Coco 3 that year for Christmas. So if you bought a Coco, you got his game with the machine, which is kind of cool. Yeah, and you can see here that it's maintained the same look. It looks a little better here than it did on the TRS-80 Model 1, obviously. A little bit more resolution. We've got actual color here. But, yeah, the same animation style, the bouncy donuts, it's preserved. It is neat that there's, almost a half a dozen different versions of this game floating around at this point.
I just don't remember how to throw the dough.
Anybody remember on the Coco? Is it Alt or Shift? Or it's a weird key. I'm trying to think. He had told me one time. I don't even remember. It's all keyboard based. I know that because if you're playing on a Coco 3, you can use Control and Alt as your up and down keys.
I think it's a combination of the throw key and the direction you're traveling.
Oh, yeah. You might want to try Shift or something and then a direction. Yeah. I don't remember.
I had to get the dough again. I died.
Yeah, I think too. It was around the John Strong, you and Nick Morentis, when I was doing a live Coco marathon a couple years ago, where I was just playing random Coco games, and a bunch of people were in the live chat with us. And I think it was you and Nick came in and joined us and started talking about your games. And that was one of the first unofficial times we had on my YouTube channel where some of the authors of the games were with us while the games were being played. And it was a very magic moment for me, having you and Nick come in that day and just talk about stuff.
Yeah, we just happened to hit the same day and just started filling airspace.
Yeah, and I think that was when you even had teased and showed us a really early version of your Dr. Mario, Dr. Coco game, which looked really cool. And speaking of Coco Fest, do you think we will see a version of that this year at Coco Fest?
You will see a version. I'm behind on getting things done right now, majorly. I've lost a couple months of time being sick last year and things like that, so I've got to try to catch up. So I don't know the status on that.
Okay.
I'm hoping, but I'm not promising at this point.
Okay. Will we hear anything from you, meaning new sound hardware? Will we hear something at Coco Fest this year?
I think you're going to hear some stuff at Coco Fest this year. There's some things that's going on. I know Alan and I are working back and forth a little bit on things, mostly Alan on the sound and stuff, but I'm supporting his project as much as I can for him. So I'm planning to have some sound into that, just how much is completed at the time. Just been very busy recently.
Okay.
And,
Jason, your brother says it's up or down arrow with direction to throw down. So if you press up and then press right at the same time, it might throw right. Sorry, John.
Yeah, and so that's kind of it. I'm running behind on schedule on things, but the busier I get at work, the less I feel like staring at the computer screen after I'm off work.
Yeah.
And we've had a particularly annoying client recently, okay? And who's trying to get, much more work out of us than what we contracted to do. And, which sometimes you go take a flying leap, but unfortunately, they're a very big company and they have more work. They're going to be paying us more money for the future. And so higher up in the company won't let us do that. We've been told to be very nice to them when we don't want to be.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of dealing with consulting business and doing things. But when that, your real job, real life takes up your time, the fun stuff gets pushed aside a bit. So, and also I've been doing Coco things. I've doing a lot of Coco cases recently. So whether people know it, I do all the cases for the mini MPI for Ed Snyder. And recently he's been ordering a lot of the Coco SDC cases straight from me, and so they're shipping out from him with a case rather than
okay. I had somebody ask me about that today, because on my website I do have links to reach out to Ed Snyder to get the Coco SDC, but they were asking, how do I get the case? And
sometimes he makes them available.
Yeah.
And so recently he's been ordering batches of those. I guess safe to say this, I'm free to say on this, is I've got like 30 he just ordered, I think, that I've got to get done for him.
If I could give you some suggestion and a free advice, you should, if you haven't updated the Strongware website, because I'm linking to your website. I'm trying to point people to my website so they don't have to remember 50 different websites. So I just say, listen, go to imacoconut.com, and then I've got a section called Buy, Sell, Trade. And anybody who's selling stuff, I'll list you under Buy, Sell, Trade. I do have a link to Strongware but I don't know that you've updated that site. I don't know if you have your email address available on that site. I don't know if you've listed newer projects like the Coco SDC case and stuff, but I would suggest you at least put on your website your email, because I don't want to publish your personal information unless you want it to be made public.
Yeah.
But
the Hotmail address is okay. Okay.
well,
Usually
put it on your website would be what I would say, because I'm already.
I
linking
thought
to
it
that.
was. Yeah, I thought it was. Okay, I'll have to go check.
Yeah, I had somebody reach out to me because I went to a retro computer club last week, and I got a bunch of people interested in the Coco, and this guy has already ordered a Coco SDC, but he was trying to figure out where to get the case from, and I didn't have time to hunt down your information to give it to him. But yeah, I would just say for future reference, if you could put your email address in there saying, look, for all inquiries, just contact me here. That would probably be a good thing.
I thought it was. I'll have to check. I haven't been there very often.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's been a very busy time recently.
Yep. What is your website? It's not strongware.com, is it? What is your website?
Yeah, it's strongware.net.
Okay, strongware.net. Let's take a look at that. Okay. Strongware, recent posts, archives, categories, meta, login.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
and I know I'm behind in updating it drastically.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure it's easy for somebody to know how to reach you from this site. So if we could figure out a way to make that happen, or I can just put, if with your permission, I'll also add next to the link on my site, email John Strong, and I'll just put in. You say your Hotmail's okay to share?
It's okay to share. I would do something so they just can't scrape it. Do an ad or something like that.
Okay.
Which is usually what I do on Facebook. I do something so it's not too easy to scrape.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll figure that out. But yeah, so that might be just worth.
Yeah, I need to do.
Mental
I've
note
got stuff I got to take time to do, and that was on my plans before I got a bunch of orders here that I need to take care of. So, yeah, just the main thing is, I'm set up real well to take, ones and twos orders from people that, there, but when Ed orders a bunch, it takes a bunch of time for me to get those.
Right.
Done.
You are also, John Strong, you're giving a presentation at Coco Fest?
Yes.
Without giving away what the presentation, the details of the presentation, can you tell us what the topic is or what we could expect to hear or see at that?
Well, I'm going to do, the status of the video games I'm working on. And knowing me, whatever else comes off the top of my head as I go. But probably to update people on the video games. Like I said, I'm hoping to have, one of them done, but I don't know if I'm going to have that. Okay. And the big key is getting all the code written and the music and stuff in it. So the game's playable. I just got to do the touch-up, but finding the time to do it.
Yeah. And I think Alan Huffman's going to have to narrow down to maybe 6 to 9 of his 49 projects he's working on right now to talk about it at Coco Fest.
Well, it feels like that here,
No, I got 2 tables.
He also said he wants to be next to me so he could steal some of my space.
Hey, MySpace, I still have an account there.
You're dating yourself.
Only on the weekends.
And only when he's not with Grant.
David.
Oh, man.
You told me to be nice to you, and I'm being nice. Now you're biting.
Grant's
all right, I'm sorry, Grant. I apologize.
Hey, Grant's probably been having a really tough time not being able to, with his illness, not being able to, be Grant.
Yes, and by the way, Steve, I do not have an STD that you mentioned during the Coco Talk today.
What, hepatitis or whatever it is?
Herpes.
Herpes. Chlamydia. What was it that you had again? Is it bronchitis or?
Yeah, I had the flu that turned into bronchitis.
The flu. Okay, the flu that turned into... I knew it was some type of ailment. So
And a secondary infection, and they gave him 1 week of antibiotics, and what did I tell you?
Yes, and I'm on my 3rd round as we speak. Thank you very much.
I'm not a doctor, though they tried to put me through medical school. I refused to do it. But the thing is, I went through bronchitis, and I remember they gave me a week. I didn't go back, get more, and I got really badly sick again. And finally, I just stayed on them, and it did take about 3 weeks to get it out of my system. And they were getting a little concerned about the second week through because the antibiotics weren't working. It's just that the first batch left behind superbugs that needed a lot more stronger antibiotics to take the rest of it out. They underprescribed and almost killed me.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, so when it comes to antibiotics, the doctors don't want these superbugs, so they're underprescribing them these days.
Right.
But the thing is, by underprescribing, they're creating the superbugs.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I'm feeling a lot better, and thanks for the advice, because I think that really has helped. So.
Yeah. I just didn't want you to go down the road I went. That's not good.
Yep.
Yeah, it was funny because he's right. Because after I ran out, and then missed that next day of the antibiotics when I started going back down the hill again. So it's like calling the doctor and give me another prescription.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of the situation and that I went through too, for a different infection. But yeah, they didn't give enough, and so they kept coming back and beating me up.
Yeah, in the good old days, they used to do 14 days of antibiotics to get most things out of your system. And they've been making it less and less now.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's me or the margaritas talking, but David Ladd gets better looking after each drink I take here. So
you need to get some new glasses, Steve.
You're cut off, Steve.
Steve, that's just not kind. Don't you guys stick it to me enough as it is?
No. You're talking about now. So we went from TRS-80 talk. Now we're getting into illness and medicine talk. I had a pneumonia once, 15 years ago, and they didn't even know it was a pneumonia. I was in the hospital for 5 days before they could figure out what it was, and I had all kinds of antibiotics they were giving me on a daily basis. I found out that I'm allergic to one. So there's an antibiotic they gave me. It's called doxycycline. And I am actually allergic to that. It actually suspends my breathing and stuff. So I found out the hard way. One thing I'm allergic to. So.
Okay, Dave. When he gets on your case, you know how to take him out.
Doxycycline. He's gonna spike my drink.
Well, that brings up that Sony in the movie Peter Rabbit. They have the Peter attacking the fox with berries he's allergic to, and fox gets where he can't breathe and has to use an EpiPen to survive. Sonny's taking some heat over that, and I think deserve her late.
Yeah,
I have a little story about breathing.
I hung up on Richard because he wouldn't stop with the crickets. He'll probably call back in. So let's just switch topics.
He's back.
It's like a telemarketer. Yeah, I heard about that. Somebody actually posted a warning on Facebook saying, "Listen, if you got kids who have allergies and have an EpiPen, you might want to let them know that this is going to happen." It's a somewhat shocking scene for those kids,
I had symptoms of asthma for a while when I was swimming in my pool, and I contacted the doctor and said I have these weird episodes where it feels like I can't breathe or whatever. So they gave me an X-ray, and next day or two, the doctor called and said, "You need to get in here right away and get the other tests going because your heart is huge." I said, "Okay." So then I got a little nervous, and I went in and had some of these tests done, and it turns out I had an aneurysm on my heart.
Oh, wow.
8.8 centimeters.
Ooh.
It was huge. And the doctor told me, don't lift anything, not even 10 pounds. Don't do anything. Could pop, you're dead. There's nothing they can do about it.
Oh, my
Same
God.
thing Bill Paxton died from. Actor, yeah. So anyways,
What was this?
This was Halloween 2016.
Oh, wow.
So I went in, I had open heart surgery. They put a pig's valve in my aorta, and then they had to take that ball off and put a piece of pig's aorta in with a Dacron sleeve in it. And they did one artery had to be replaced, which they took an artery from behind my lungs. They said that there's 2 arteries back there that you don't really need, which is funny to hear.
It's the bonus artery.
And fixed it.
Like when you take something apart and you have spare parts left over when you put it back together.
Yeah, you don't really need this stuff. Yeah. Well, that was real scary. And before that, I had my thyroid taken out. And that thing had grown into my chin and down into my clavicle, and it took 6 hours to remove. Because they thought that possibly, I would get cancer eventually if I didn't, watch it. Because I had a goiter, it was fat there. So,
and folks, welcome to Old Folks Talk About Their Medical Problems.
Exactly.
We'll be at this for 4 hours.
Welcome to Aches and Pains.
Hey, I'm over 62. I can talk about stuff too.
That's my brush with death, okay?
Wow. God, man. Thank God you're still here.
Yep.
Hey, guys, I've got to get off here for the night so I can focus on the stuff I'm doing. So, guys, have a good night.
Thanks for joining us, John.
See you later, John.
See you, John.
Yeah.
See you, John.
All right.
So which one of us is going to end up in the nursing home first?
I'm good for a few years now.
My money's on Jason.
Probably the youngest one here.
How old are you?
41.
Hey, you're a young whippersnapper.
Yeah.
You're 1 year younger than me. Well, almost 2, so my birthday's coming up here next week, so.
I was 41.
Hey, guess what? We're at 4 Angries.
Hey!
Old folks talking about their medical problems.
Yeah,
made them angry.
That did it.
Well, we need to hear about Jim. We need to hear Jim Brain's medical problems.
Right. Mike Brandt says we've now gone into medical talk. I remember this one time when I found a lump.
Hey, David, you get that gonorrhea taken care of?
Oh, you mean what I got from you?
I think we're going off the deep end now.
Back in my day, whatever it was, you just walked it off.
How many here played that game Operation?
Oh yeah.
Is that a little bit like walking to school in 7 miles of deep snow, uphill both ways?
Oh, yeah.
No shoes.
No shoes.
Yeah.
Barefoot and pregnant. All right. So, have we beat this one to death, or are we good? Are we good for another 4 hours? It is, man, it's almost 1 o'clock. It's 1:45. We started this show a little after 10, so we're going on 2.5 hours. 2 hours, 45 minutes of just nonstop nonsense.
I think we need to end soon. We don't want to burn you out.
Yeah. No. Well, no. It's all good. It is all good.
It's like cigarette smoke. It just builds up in your lungs.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, there is you. This is a different show, so it's like But when it comes to the regular CoCoTalk show, sometimes I think there can be too much, and there's probably been more than a few times that we went a little too long, and so it's all about
4
finding
hours.
balance. Yeah, no, that one was actually kind of good, but it's all about finding balance, But this was fun. Yeah, no, but we've held an audience the whole time. We are between like 16 and 20 people at all given times here, so people are hanging out with us. So that's kind of cool.
Oh,
Hey,
that's one thing.
Jason, are you a ham radio operator?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, because I can see stuff behind your head there.
Oh no, ham talk.
Yeah. Brian Schubing, the Music Man's asking who is drumming this year at the fest. Brian, if you still have your setup, I will be happy to do more fake drumming this year. I am planning on attending, so at the Coco Jam. And I don't know what N9NAZ means. I don't know if that's the name of your drum machine you have or something else, but
Sounds like a ham radio call sign.
yeah, okay, N9NAZ, CQ.
QRZ.
So that was one thing we forgot, Steve, was go over the stats for the podcast. And
oh, interesting. Hey, Grant, I knew there was a reason why I pay you top dollar. Let me find it. So yeah, well, we did reach an interesting milestone. We've reached well over 5,000 downloads on the audio version of our CoCoTalk show, which is pretty cool. When I checked it earlier this morning, I actually took a screenshot with my phone because the number was exactly at 5150, which is a great Van Halen album, which also is a police call sign for somebody who's insane. So I screenshotted when we were on 5150 downloads, and I think we're higher than that now. Probably not a lot. Let me see if I can find that. So yeah, our weekly live talk show, CoCoTalk, which is 5160 we're on right now on the downloads. And last week's episode, which was our 4-hour train ride, that one reached well over 200 views within its first week, which is about on par what we used to be when we first started the show. I think we slowed down a little bit, especially after we went to mixed media of audio and video. But the fact that we got 200 views on last week's episode 47, was pretty good. And the fact we reached 5,000 downloads on the podcast is pretty cool too. Nice milestone.
Hey, I was listening to a podcast on iHeartRadio. How would you wind up getting on there?
I've actually looked into that one now. So iHeartRadio only feeds through a service they own that's called Spreaker, Spreaker, and it is a highly extortionized based platform where they want to charge you a lot of money to be on it. Like I am already paying a company anywhere you go that's going to host a podcast. You pay a monthly fee for hosting, and that fee varies. And I went with one that gave you unlimited bandwidth, unlimited size, unlimited hosting and stuff. So I think mine's about $15 a month with Podbean is who's hosting mine. And once you upload it, it's basically an RSS feed, and it'll feed the world. Anybody who wants to catch it will get it. So that one feed will feed iTunes and Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio that feeds Amazon Alexa. So this one feed will feed anybody else who wants to catch it. But iHeartRadio basically says, even though you've got your own hosting and your own feed, if you want us to replay your feed, we are going to charge you monthly fees, and their fees are an additional $30 to $60 to $90 per month on top of what I'm already paying. But they're like, oh, but we'll put you on iHeartRadio, and you'll get all these listens and all this other crap. But it just felt like extortion to me. And I mean, like, listen, this is a shit show. Let's be honest, okay? So I'm not going to pay money to have somebody listen to this shit show. So it's just like
Floppy Days is on there.
Yeah, so I don't know if what tier they're paying for on that, or if I just said, you know what, I'm not going to pay Podbean, I'm just going to pay them as my primary hosting, then, maybe the difference wouldn't have been as much, but I was already being hosted by somebody before I found out about Spreaker. So I just don't like this fact that anybody else in the world says, listen, give me a feed, give me the link, and I'll host you for free. But they are like have this different tiers of payments. And so it just felt really douchey to me, honestly. So
okay.
Yeah. So, Curtis Boyle says that TuneIn pulls it free. It does. Matter of fact, when I was doing because every now and then I'll do a Google search just to see how well my keywords are making our show be found. There's probably a half a dozen other podcast formats that are hosting are have our show too that I didn't even know about. So, I guess once you get out there into the pod sphere, people can pick you up because it's an RSS feed, Mm-hmm. So there was a bunch of other ones that had it I didn't even know existed until I started searching for it.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So I think one thing I am considering down the road is also doing a video version of the podcast. And for a while, honestly, even the podcast, it didn't make complete sense to me. I wasn't sure what the long-term benefit was going to be of doing the podcast. I just figured, there are some people who like to listen, and maybe those people, somebody found us accidentally. Maybe they'd listen to the show and they'd become a viewer, because I've always seen the show as a visual show. But it turns out the show plays pretty well to audio, and we've already seen that a lot of people say, listen, because of my schedule and because of how I work and stuff, it's easier to consume the show audibly than it is visibly. So it ended up being an unplanned community benefit to being this way.
The other benefit is they don't have to look at us.
But another thing that I originally didn't consider, but somebody gave me a good reason too, is that there is video podcasting too, right? And so I could repost the same episode as a video podcast. And my first thought was, well, why? It's already a video. You can already watch it on YouTube. But it becomes a bandwidth thing because it's not everybody can afford to stream it because of their data or because their bandwidth sucks or whatever. But if they're at home and they're on Wi-Fi, they could download it to their device, have it on their device, and then watch it at will and not consume bandwidth. And that makes sense. And that was a really compelling argument to do that. The challenge there becomes that the hosting cost kind of doubles. So it goes from like $15 a month to $30 a month, which isn't huge, but I don't know that it's
just
worth
put it on my server for free.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot of space. I don't see. That's the part I don't understand too. I know you've offered that, but I don't know enough about RSS hosting and RSS feeds to know if it makes sense to do that. Because I know right now where it is, it works and it's reasonable. So I'm just kind of happy with it. I don't know enough to know if it makes sense to stick it somewhere else or not.
And now
it doesn't matter where it's at. The RSS feed just points to an MP3 file on a server. It could be anywhere on the internet. Every single episode could be somewhere completely different.
Yeah, but he's really talking about the video and like that, and putting a video on a regular web server, like what you're talking about.
Yep, I had 3 of them.
Yeah, but the thing is, when you start getting multiple streams going out of the server, it will bog down because those servers are not dedicated for doing this.
That's true, but podcast will just slow down. They'll download them when they're ready. I had 19,000 video downloads one month.
Yes,
and it's not.
I agree.
But if you want to save hundreds of dollars, if you want to save hundreds of dollars, I'd be glad to put the stuff on there. I had all kinds of shows on the server, and we are such a teeny tiny audience compared to the stuff that I was doing. I don't think it'd be any problem at all. But the thing about the podcast feed is I can listen to it at double speed or 1.5 speed, so it let me catch up. The thing about the video podcast is it's on my device. I don't have to stream a gig of data to watch it, and I can pause when I come back later. It's there. You can't do any of that with YouTube. YouTube, you have to remember where you are and scrub. If you go to another computer, and podcast just syncs. So a video podcast, I would love to see. I would switch the audio over to video immediately for that. So if I hear something, because you just play it and listen to the audio. But if I hear something, I could then unlock my phone and start watching the video, and that would be very compelling for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, my browsers allow me to take a YouTube video while I'm watching it, and then if I stop watching and come back the next day and bring it up, it will remember where I was.
Yeah, but you know, one of my browsers is on my iPad, one of them's on my Mac, one of them's on my computer at work.
Yeah.
Okay,
Chrome,
I'm
Internet
a Windows
Explorer,
man.
Safari.
All right. You know, I'm a Chrome's window man, and there's no problem there. So as long as I got an Android or a Windows device, I'm fine. It's just that Apple won't let you run Chrome.
I run Chrome. I'm running it right now.
Well, the thing is, you have to have it.
Chrome I use Chrome every day on my iPad, and I use it on my Mac.
No, but the Chrome has to use the WebKit that's built into the iPhone to display it, and that's where the issue comes from. Now, everything that I can do with Chrome on Android and Windows is a lot more than you can do on the iOS environment.
Yeah, and I mean, so the thing about it is, if you're going to have to pay $30 a month, this podcast is not worth spending, $300-400 a month to host.
Yeah.
Is this? I mean, I was making $200 a month from Toyota doing a podcast, and I was just hosting it on a web server. And even doing something like that, even if you get 10,000 downloads a month, I transfer way more content than that on my photo site, which has 76,000 photos on it. So there's a lot of options here. Don't let cost get in the way. Doing a video podcast is neat, but it's way easier to get a program that manages your RSS feed. So on your computer, you just drag it in, type a description, say post, and it uploads it and puts the feed there, and you're done. And you don't have to worry about all these other things. And that's how I did it. But the company that I used to use on my Mac got acquired, and they decided not to keep my podcast maker. But that meant I could put it anywhere. Toyota Live Web hosted all the podcasts on their site. I hosted them on mine as well. So I never lost my subscribers. They had their little base of subscribers, but I would just make mine point to their MP3 files so they would still see the downloads. But when they discontinued sponsoring me, I still had my feed, and I kept all my subscribers. That worked out really good.
Okay. Well, something to think about.
All good points for an audio podcast, not a video, though, once again.
I have 3 video podcasts.
Yeah.
Well, I had 3 video podcasts plus the Des Moines Renaissance Fair construction. That was getting 4,500 downloads per episode. I mean, I was doing all this.
Okay. All right.
It's better. It's better to pay dedicated money, but sometimes you do with, sometimes that money's better spent on other things.
It's just that in experience I've had with videocasts, it's better to have it on a server that's designed to handle lots of video feeds opposed to a standard web server.
Yeah, I had 25,000 downloads in March 2009 on my podcast feed.
Yeah. Podcasts are different than videocasts. Videocasts, you've always got that little spinning thing when the server has a hiccup because there's too much bandwidth going out over too many ports.
Yep, 19,000 video podcast downloads in December 2009.
Yeah. Now those are not live streaming; those are downloads, right?
Right. Yeah. These were downloads after the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. These were just video.
What I'm referring to
podcasts.
is the case of live streaming.
Yeah. No, there would never be live. It would always be down.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Michael Newman says good night, all. Thanks, Mike, for hanging out with us. Yeah, it's going on 1 a.m. here. The 3-hour after show of our hour and a half daytime show. Not bad. Not bad. No, I enjoy the fact that we can sit here and get together and talk about literally just about anything.
Well, we didn't talk about thermonuclear war yet.
No, we did not. We did not.
Yeah, but we're talking about old people's medical problems. That's just about as bad.
Next week we'll talk about manscaping.
I don't want to know.
And with that new low.
Yeah, I think I'm busy next week.
I don't even want to know what's next on the topic list.
Oh, sweet Lord, have mercy on us all.
Bedtime.
Yeah, so that is something to think about, and I don't know that how it's absolutely necessary, but I think that would be the next step. Would be maybe to offer a video podcast.
One question for you, Steve. Do you have a backup of all your videos we've done? So if like YouTube was to delete your channel tomorrow, is everything still backed up?
I would say probably 90% ish.
Okay.
Because I usually keep local copies of like I kind of got in the habit of that since YouTube started acting crazy. So although I did forget to record a local copy of this show tonight, but yeah, whatever. So I would say for the most part I do, but I think I should also start creating archives of them. Yeah, good point. Good question.
Yeah, because YouTube is getting kind of crazy, and it seems to be getting crazier.
Yeah. But what's the alternative? What's going to be the next YouTube? It's hard to say.
People going back to unlimited storage hosting web servers like what Alan has.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a DTube that's out, and it's some kind of distributed version of like YouTube. I signed up, but they won't let you just sign up. They have to kind of verify you, so I'm still waiting to get approved. But the Truth and Media guy, he's been shut down, so now he's sponsored by a cryptocurrency, and he's posting on Facebook and YouTube, but he's also using this DTube service, so I'm going to check that out and see what that's all about.
Yeah, usually it takes about 48 to 72 hours to be verified, so...
How does that work? Where are they hosting? Is it?
I'm sorry?
He was asking something about how does it work, but I don't know. Alan, are you still there?
Yeah, I don't know how it works. I've signed up for it myself, and it took about 72 hours for them to do it. From my understanding, I think it distributes some. It's kind of like peer-to-peer, I think, more than it is anything else.
Yeah. I just think the YouTube is pulling so many. They're just doing so many things wrong right now with how they're treating creators, and the creators who create the content is what makes YouTube what it is, and they're just doing a lot of things that are counterintuitive and counter-creator. That I'm just wondering if they don't change, what is the risk? Because while YouTube does have their megastars that, provide a lot of stuff, the megastars are maybe 10%, whereas there's 90% of YouTube is independent creators with smaller audiences and stuff like that. If all those people just picked up and went away, I don't know that YouTube could survive on their 10% mega creators,
Yeah, but you got to remember those mega.
Because YouTube is just one little drop in the bucket of all the things Google has going for it, and Google has completely killed services before, and there will be something that will come and replace it. Just like Friendster and MySpace and Facebook. So there are alternatives, but nobody's mad enough to go to them yet.
But you also have to remember that 10% that you're talking about, that's the top 10, they make 90% of their revenue.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Now, one nice thing I will say is since they've demonetized a lot of these channels, they don't have ads on those channels anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's like, for example, CoCoTALK, they used to have ads at the beginning and the end. Now there's no ads whatsoever, which is nice.
Except for all the ones that I run.
Well, that's true.
Yeah. But that was kind of my logic, was that, the money I was ever going to make from YouTube based on the amount of views we got, 200 views was 20 cents. So, if I sell a couple of t-shirts and make $5, that's like 5,000 views, which we've never gotten. So I'd rather make $5 in t-shirt sales, because I know I'm never going to get 5,000 views on YouTube, So
we'll get a viral.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is how they always count views. You've got places that count 3 seconds or 10 seconds as a whole view, so the numbers are all bogus, and advertisers are going to figure that out. Same thing with podcast. I have dozens of shows in my feed, and it goes out and pulls them all the time. I count as a subscriber even if I never listen to the show. And I've pulled every single episode of Coco Crew and things like that, but I have yet to get around to listening to them yet. So I'm counting all kinds of downloads, even though I've never even played the show.
Right.
So
right.
That's the problem, is you got to keep the advertisers happy, and they're realizing they don't have a clue what's going on. If they count the real numbers, nobody'd advertise with them.
Yeah, and then of course Facebook is the worst because you have the autoplay videos that are come up in your feed, and the very second they start playing, and you can't hear anything, they count it as a view.
Right. So it's not a qualified number. Yeah.
No, not at
Brian
all.
Brian Schubing is leaving us now too, the music man. Good night, Brian. Yeah, it's interesting. They're just numbers, so it's like, how do you know? I guess for better or for worse right now, when I look at the numbers on YouTube, and like last week, the fact that we got 200 views on CoCoTalk, I'm gonna take those as real views. If it was a 2-minute view or a 4-hour view, YouTube is a little bit different because it doesn't autoplay, so people had to click on it.
No, it autoplays because I'll finish watching a video and it'll spool for a minute and goes to some other related video and it'll start playing that. That's what I get all the time when I do Disney, and the next thing I know, I'm 10 videos in and I'm on people I've never heard of. So it definitely does that. Maybe that's a setting.
It is a setting.
Yeah. Now, some of the people out there that have advertising, the way they verify people are actually listening to the shows and the ads are working is they really do those promo codes. And the promo code is designed specifically for each individual outlet that the program's played on. I've even started seeing on TV commercials. But the thing is, advertisers are looking for proof, and the people putting out content also want to give them proof that their dollars are working. Leo Laporte, with his Twit TV, is one of the most expensive podcast outfits to advertise on, but he gets results, and he proves them.
And that's a nice place to be.
Yeah, well, what we got to do is start doing promo codes for you.
Yeah, we got to get some real sponsors.
Mm-hmm.
GoDaddy.
GoDaddy. Yes.
Oh, didn't we have that adult dating site?
Yeah.
Promo code for them.
No.
Promo code hard and fast.
My God.
I guess that's just the way Steve likes it.
Oh dear God, it's definitely going downhill from here.
On that note,
I think we've hit the end point. I think it's time to play us out.
It's time to play us out.
Coco Man, it can't get any higher.
All right, guys. Yes, we've hit the 3-hour mark. 3 hours of goodness. So, in the live chat, we've had a veritable cornucopia of people. So Ken Reichert was here, Tom C. was here, Michael Brandt was here, Tony Pedraza, president of the Glenside Color Computer Club, was here, D. Bruce Moore was here, Brian Schubing, the Music Man, was here, Alan Huffman chiming in, Michael Brandt, Mike Newman was here, Curtis Boyle lurking in there, Brian Schubing. So that's all that's left because a lot of things have scrolled off. So yeah, we've had a pretty active chat, so I want to thank everybody in the live chat. We've had a halfway decent panel here, although we've lost half of our members. So John Strong was here earlier, Nick Morentes was here earlier, Richard Lorbieski was here earlier, Jim Brain is still with us, Grant Leedy, Steve Bjork, Alan Huffman, Jason the Coco Man Reichert, and Ron Delvaux and David Ladd were all here. And yeah, so what can I say other than we've said it all?
Did our troll die?
Our half decent panel.
Yes, our troll died.
What's the topic for next week?
Jim's very, very quiet.
Yeah.
Well, we kept our poor angries. That's a good thing.
Yes, we haven't lost any angry. So next week we're going to talk about a brand new system called the MC11.
Oh Jesus!
Is that for larger metal doors?
Yes.
So the MC11 and the Coco 4.
This one goes to 11.
Actually, you could possibly do an MC10.5. Replace the what is it? The 6803 that's in it. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Replace that with a 6303.
Is that like a 6309?
From what I understand, the 6303 is also another Hitachi chip, but it replaces the 6803.
Okay, so it's like the Nitrous 9 version for the MC10, huh?
Maybe, if someone knew how to do the enhancements. Not me, of course.
I don't think the MC10 can handle any more enhancements. I believe that thing is maxed out and tricked out as far as technology allows, and the Geneva Convention will allow at this point too. So that is interesting. Now, does anybody know if that's socketed or if we'd have to do a solder job to get that thing in and out of there?
Oh, it's Radio Shack. They're cheap. I'm sure it's not socketed.
If it was just a simple, IC puller to snap it out and pop in a, souped up CPU, then it would be a no-brainer, right?
Oh, it's worse than that. There's a metal shield over the top of all the chips on the MC10.
Oh.
That's to keep people from spitting on the chips.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, I have a whole box of MC10 I'm bringing to Coco Fest, and I'm giving them to you.
The outstanding award for...
There would be a big bonfire back behind the hotel, but the problem is it would stink too much.
It's kind of melt.
No,
hazmat out.
The Lifetime Achievement Award for Steve Bjork is somebody's going to make it rain MC10s.
Outstanding Achievement in the Field of Excellence Award.
Wow.
I'll say it again. The MC10 killed the deluxe color computer, which had a built-in RS-232 chip port, real, not Bitbanger, a real RS-232 port, and a sound chip. Now, if that machine gone forward, the Coco 3, guess what it would have had? A real RS-232 chip and
a real sound chip. Yep.
Steve is just bitter.
It's just that one decision had this cataclysmic effect on the entire color computer line. I mean, I kept begging Tandy to put a sound chip in the Coco 3. I begged. I was tempted to send him a horse's head. But, it just... They would not bend, and they said, you're just going to have to get away with doing sound with the programmable timer.
Basically, MC10 was like the giant asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. It just brought through an end of an era.
Boy, it irks me sometimes because they just couldn't see it. Can't have a more expensive computer. Sorry.
What was your comment last week, Jim? Cue Disney music?
Right. You want me to sing Let It Go?
I can't let it go. It affected so much. I mean, that's frickin' programmable timer.
Let it go.
Background music.
Let it go.
Slow down the computer by 25%.
It's been dead for 30 years, dude.
Hey, it worked. We're now at 5 angries.
Keep your stress levels down. Keep your stress level down.
Somebody needs a Valium.
Oh man!
His face is so red I can see it all over here in Kansas.
So Jim, just to let you know, I'm going to be debuting a product called Coco RAM that has 9 megabytes of memory at Coco Fest. So.
Oh, you're just killing me, aren't you? Killing me.
And what are you going to do with that extra meg?
Yeah, I had to one up my 513K board with the 9 megabyte Coco RAM board. So.
There you go.
Yeah, and that 1 meg is filled with an Easter egg filled with Steve.
I can already see why didn't they do that question for next week? Why can't the new guys put a gig of RAM on the Coco? Hey, my PC has 16 gigs. Why can't I just have a gig on my Coco? I could just see that already. People asking for that.
Well, as soon as somebody does, Richard Lorbieski will steal the design. So there you go.
Yep, there you go.
Ow.
And you know what the number one reason why people are going to give that the Coco needs that much memory? So they can turn it into a web browser.
Well, isn't that the whole purpose of a Coco Wi-Fi?
Yeah.
No.
Surf the Coco web.
I want to tweet. That's what I want to do.
Tweet. No, that'd be a great use for MC10s. We can cluster a bunch of MC10s together and make a web server farm off of MC.
Oh my God.
We need a Beowulf cluster of them, yeah. Supercomputer.
All right, we have officially gone downhill.
Yes. That
All
time
right,
to
guys.
make it official.
Yep. Call it. Okay, time of death, 1:14 a.m. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching CoCoTALK After Dark number 8 live on the Book of Face. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for being in the panel. Thank you for watching. And we're going to play some really good music for you. And I'm going to go pass out and possibly vomit. So we'll see you guys next time. Thank you, David and Ron and Jason and Alan and Jim and Steve and Grant. And I have been your conductor in this circus, OG Stevie Strow. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye-bye.
Night-o.
Night.